to the SmaxTalk Podcast Week 5 episode of the Winter Split Phoenix Rising Academy League. I am your host, Smax, and tonight I am joined by two lovely gentlemen here. One returning guest and one new face. We've got Ryan Gooseling here, aka AKM Joker, and we also have Malstixy, who was previously in the league. No longer. He has moved on to other things. And I've got them both here tonight with me. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing absolutely fantastic.
It's great to hear. That's great to hear. What about you, Goose?
I am alive and well. Happy to be here with my ex-Scythes jungler and current Sabres jungler.
I thought you're not. I'm not your son anymore.
Let's tone it down, buddy. I barely know you.
And current Kane's bot laner too. You got that
Current
going
Kane
on.
jungler as well.
I think we're both comfortable going into the if there's any question regarding why Malstixy was put onto another Akuma roster.
Oh, do you? I mean, we can. I mean, if you guys
I'm
want to
comfortable
do that
answering
right
this.
now, we can do that. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I can take this. So for a while, the environment in Scythes kind of deteriorated from a friendly atmosphere to a more there's a lot more animosity. There's a lot more people being unhappy with how other people saw the game. And an opportunity opened up with another one of our players hitting Grandmasters. So I took the initiative with Malstixy and we moved him onto Akuma Sabres in Omega League, and currently they are 4-0 with Malstixy playing. So it worked out better for everyone involved. Plus, we managed to get Taz, aka Anarch, off of Wolfpack. So
It just seemed like
I
you
think
wanted to do
everyone
anyway.
kinda won. Yeah, I think everyone won.
Maybe not Wolfpack, but
Yeah.
but yeah. All right. Well, cool. Well, I'm glad you guys are here discussing the Week 5 results and teams and situations of the Academy League here in Phoenix Rising. Yeah, What are you guys' like first impressions before we get into any specific division here of just the competition and everything of this last week?
I guess I can answer that. So, in general, I think I said it multiple times on the analyst desk, which I've been on relatively recently, pretty often. I think I was on all last week except for Sunday, and then a couple of times the week before. I think that most people are rating that in overall competitiveness for each division, we're seeing a very clear top half and bottom half. We're seeing seems everyone's claiming Thursday, Saturday being the two top divisions, while we're seeing kind of like the garbage fight down at the bottom with Sunday and Friday. I mean, that's the only terminology that I could think of, but I'm sure they're trying their hardest.
Yeah, it's interesting, I think, because there definitely are some clear-cut teams in Friday and Sunday that can maybe make some waves come playoffs, but it definitely does feel like it's more anyone's game in those divisions rather than a few teams like being a cut above where they're not going to get upset. Um, but I say that, and our top team in the very first division here did get upset in their off-stream match. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see it, but it was the number 1 team versus the number 8 team, so there's really not a big reason to stream it unless there was an upset, and there was. So I guess with that transition, we can move over to the Fire Division, the Thursday division, just right off the bat here. Unless you had any other thoughts about the competitiveness, Ryan.
This season is worse than last. I'll just leave it at that.
All right. Cool. Well, let's get into the first division then. So we're gonna change it up a little bit based on what we've been doing in the last few episodes, because we are getting closer to playoffs and we have every division has narrowed it down a little bit as to which teams can and cannot make it into playoffs. We've got a pretty clear cut top 5, I would say, and for some divisions it's more more scarce than that even. But as for the teams that can make playoffs, we have a top 5 in each. And we're gonna jump into that right off the bat here, just touching on the standings a little bit. For the Fire Division, we've got Aether at the top with 8-2 as their standings. Just recently taking a second loss. Before that, they did have an 8-win streak. But yeah, they're still the first team there. Then we got a clump of 3 that are tied, with LC Gladiators leading it with a tiebreaker there, and then Akumasai's and Wolfpack tied behind them. And then right under them, those teams are 7-3, by the way, so there's just 1 win behind Aether. And then behind them is Famous Gaming Prodigy, who are 3 wins behind. They're 4-6. So they still are mathematically in playoffs, but it's going to be very, very unlikely. So as a disclaimer, we're not going to talk about them too much, because they have not upset a team since their victory over Wolfpack, and since then they've only defeated the teams underneath them, and they've even lost games to them as well. So it's looking pretty unlikely for them. So we are going to keep it to the top 4 here. But yeah, what are you guys' thoughts on the spread of teams here?
So I'm not going to talk about Akuma Sites because it's to my advantage to not reveal who we'll be playing with this coming week. Regardless of when this comes out, I think it's just kind of stupid to give anyone the roster that I'll be running.
It's not going to be Malstixy, though.
No, it won't be Malstixy. He has the day off. He's on vacation. I think LC Gladiators is quite good. I think that they had the advantage versus Scythes in the match that they played last week. Griffin and Applause were working really, really well together early in mid-game.
Yeah.
And then somehow Applause's hands fell off and Griffin's brain turned off and he turned into the Rengar player that we know him as. And they kind of just started chain inting into some carry and fluke. But you could very clearly tell that the Scythes team, or as I like to call them, the Akuma Blights, were definitely 3 members of one team and 2 of another, because both groups were kind of doing their own thing.
Yeah.
And who else is it? Is Wolfpack? I don't really think about Wolfpack. There's kind of no reason for me to think about Wolfpack. I don't know any other players, so Aether is okay.
Aether too, yeah.
I just can't respect a team that loses to Cleveland State and then goes on the analyst desk and says that we're not a threat. Bro, you lost to Cleveland. You lost to fucking Cleveland, bro. Like, what do you mean we're not a threat? You're threatened by the slug of our division. I don't know, man. Kind of a meme, but I'll throw it to you, Malstixy.
Well, I mean, as for my thoughts about Aether, I do definitely think that they're relatively unopposed, except I guess by Cleveland. So it seems that with their way of more playing side lanes, even though I don't think that the mid laner Yaji is particularly the fault of the team, I do think that their one weakest point is actually probably Magnum, and I'm sure Goose has similar thoughts about it as well. But whenever we do see them, they're pretty much only ever winning through their top or their bot lane. And I mentioned before on the analyst desk is I don't think any top has yet to actually push Poppy Chulo down far enough, or any team has put it to the point where their main goal is to put down Poppy. So when we start seeing that, when we're starting to see more playoffs, actually, I think that's when we're going to see like if they're going to rise to the occasion or fall like some people expect them to.
Yeah. My main take on Aether is that they are certainly not the fastest team. They're very, very calculated, but they're also very risk averse. Especially when you compare them to LC Gladiators, Akuma, and Wolfpack, and perhaps even CSU. We didn't see that game, but yeah, I think that their unwillingness to make general proactivity happen on their side is perhaps going to be a fault when you look at other teams that are more built to combat that style come playoffs, because I personally don't see any doubt, at least from me, that they are going to represent the Fire Division in playoffs, just based on where their standings are and their matches to come. Even if they do lose to LC Gladiators and Akuma Size, I believe that would still put them in the playoffs, because they would win the other two, presumably. Of course, they did lose to the Vikings. So, uh, I'm willing to write them off as making it into playoffs. First place contention though is another thing for them.
Yeah, I definitely think. I mean, their two hardest matches that we know are coming up are Akuma Sice, which is the first. It's the 8 p.m. match, one of the 8 p.m. matches on Thursday, and then they're actually the last. Their other important match is the very last match of
Right.
the season for Fire Division. It's the Aether versus LC Gladiators, and I think if they do take two crucial losses there, I think they can actually drop from first and down even to third place potentially if other teams just pick up 4 straight wins.
Yeah.
All I'm going to say is I gatekept Caliburn out of an ABL championship, and I intend to gatekeep him again out of a PRL championship. Sorry, bud.
Oh man, feels bad for him. Caliburn, Jack. I believe his name is also Chris.
I did the same thing to Bishan, so it's nothing personal.
But yeah. As for like this team and how they did get to first place, it, like you're mentioning, it is because Papi Chulo has been likely the best top laner in this division.
Kind of smurfing.
He's pretty good. He's pretty good.
Yeah, kind of smurfing.
He's definitely their win condition a lot of the time. Come late game, it's a little bit more about Caliburn Curry. But yeah, I would definitely agree that it's usually not about Magnum as much. And the support jungle synergy style of thing is certainly more up LC Gladiator's alley, I would say. But yeah, I really thought it was strange when they played Akuma Saiz and they started off the game with a bang with the Alistar of Applause and who was
Lee Sin.
It was Lee Sin, yeah.
Yes, for Griffin.
Griffin picked Lee Sin into some carries Rek'Sai. He's a psychopath.
Yeah, it was a game that I definitely expected. I expected they might be able to just run away with the game at that point because they were so proactive with the Lee Sin Alistar. And then it seemed Applause just decided to never leave lane again. And at that point, I guess they were like, hey, we put some carry behind. He's 0-2-0. We're in a good position. We can pump the brakes. But they were definitely wrong about that.
I mean, now that we're transitioning more into talking about LC Gladiators, I actually think that even though there's the support jungle synergy, I actually think the two players to watch in this team are not Griffin and Applause. I think it's actually Griffin and Echidna, because we've actually seen him when he's played on these more carry-focused picks, whether it's like Cassiopeia Pentakill he had earlier this season, I think.
Right.
Or in champions of more of that nature, that he's actually way more threatening as a player. Rather, when we're seeing him on these champion picks like Syndra, for example, he just seems, because everyone can play Syndra. You know what I mean? He seems way more generalized almost. But I do think that, like, as we were seeing, is that if you tend to shut down Griffin, and to a certain extent maybe even Applause too, you're going to end up, this team's going to struggle because Griffin's aggression and the aggression that he brings onto the map is how I feel like their only win points.
My question to you then is Griffin the lead and Echidna is the supporting actor, or is it the other way around, where Echidna is the lead?
I think this team lives and dies by Griffin's performance. If Griffin has a bad game and his brain turns off, then this team is kind of doomed.
All right.
I'm
more on the same page with that too, actually.
I agree as well. I think the more I've been watching him, the more I've been talking to him as a player and as a person, I've actually come to the decision that I think Griffin is probably the best jungler in the league currently. And obviously we don't really know what Akuma Sai's roster is going forward. I don't have that information, and Goose isn't willing to divulge it. So it's more in the position that even with some unknown factors, I would probably take the gamble on putting him at number 1 for jungle spot.
All right. In the league or the division?
If you're saying league, I think the only people who can contest him would be Bishan and Doubtful right now.
Yeah, I would agree. I still think though that what I mean by way I view him as number 1 is because they, as you said, Goose, right? They live and die by Griffin, and whereas I can still see Go Next and Doubtful teams work past their deficiencies. Where even though we haven't really seen Doubtful being pushed much in the Saturday division, or really Bichon and Sunday either, where it's hard to rate them because, as you mentioned, their team dies by grip, lives and dies. Where Go Next is, they can play off top lane sometimes, and they do sometimes play off bot lane. And we're seeing Katanas play majority of the time actually through top lane, and sometimes bot lane, sometimes mid lane. So
Yeah, I'm definitely willing to put him among the one of the best. He's in the conversation for best jungler in the league. I would definitely agree. And then based on how you're talking about this, I assume that you would not put Echidna in the conversation for best mid in the league, or am I mistaken there?
I don't think Echidna. I don't think Echidna is particularly impressive. I think effective champion pool is a bit on the smaller side.
Yeah, the
super
game was not very good.
exploitable.
I remember that
super exploitable on blue side. Echidna is. Echidna's champion pool is very much not one that you want to blind pick, except for the Ahri. And I mean, as long as he's not playing against Conqueror Rumble, I think that he has a pretty rough time against mid laners who can pressure him and also get a decent to good matchup. You saw Fluke definitely take advantage of him when they played. I mean, Fluke is kind of like really good.
He's very good, yeah.
he was also a better matchup too, as well.
I also, but exactly what I'm saying, right? Where Echidna's champion pool is effectively Taliyah, Syndra, Cassiopeia, and Ahri.
Yeah, I would agree.
Ahri's not particularly good. The Taliyah was definitely exploitable in the Aether match. And yeah, I mean, the Cassio's really good though. So
you'll notice, especially a lot on red side drafts for LC Gladiators, from at least what I've noticed, is they'll blind pick their top lane matchup. Usually Camille, sometimes Mordekaiser, sometimes Ornn, very rarely Ornn, usually a carry. And then Echidna will usually get counterpick for mid. Very rarely will it go to anyone else. Sometimes I think it went to Applause maybe once. But I do think that on blue side, this team is a lot weaker than on red side.
I would probably agree with that. I think, as you mentioned, he's not playing the blind pick mids. And of course, there's not that many, to be fair, but Ornn is among them. But I don't really see that even if he was to put time on it, that he would suddenly just become this all-around best mid player that, in comparison to what we're talking about with Griffin.
All right.
I would have to agree.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. And then if we are skipping Akuma sides, are we? First of all, are we skipping Akuma sides?
I have no comment, so
that's fair. Justin?
I mean, I think it's actually very hard to talk about them.
Right.
As we mentioned, we don't really know their full roster anymore. We know they picked up Kaz at this point, or Anarch, as we know him.
Yep.
But we haven't seen him play any games yet, and so we can't really put them there. And then, even then, with Akata stepping back in the scenes, and it seems that someone else subbed in for him, maybe that's a one-time thing, maybe that's a permanent thing. We don't really know yet. And until we see more information from this team, a full actual roster, it's going to be hard to actually judge the strength.
Okay.
But I do think that they do have some great players. I mean, obviously, I can only talk them up because I was on their team. But Shaden's a great player. He takes the hits that you want to take, and and he's a great carry player too if he gets the right matchups. And then Indigo and Doctor, obviously, as most people know them, as they could potentially be the best bot lane in PRL sometimes, and sometimes they don't look like that.
That's what I was going to ask. Is last split they were very consistently the best bot lane in the whole league up until the semifinals, where they did take a loss to the team that eventually did win the whole thing. Now in this split, like you're mentioning, there are moments where it doesn't really feel like that as much. You're not getting the same amount of pressure. You're not getting the situations where Indigo is 1v2ing the lane while Doctor is roaming, and you're certainly not getting as many of the 2v2 moments either. Do we credit that more to a change in the meta, change in their like roster, always changing a lot, or some other thing?
I do think meta plays a big role. Back when Indigo and Doctor were kind of smurfing on everyone, the meta 80 carries were very safe. So it was stuff like Kaisa, stuff like Zaya, and Adam, Doctor, could get away with playing Pyke every game because there were no real like lane counters to it. Whereas now with like Nautilus being strong, Leona being strong, Braum being strong, it's a bit more difficult to blind the Thresh and blind the. I mean, Thresh blind is actually really strong, but to blind the Pyke and the classic playmakers you see out of him.
Right.
So I do think it's a product of the meta. I think that they're good enough that it doesn't make a difference, but I think that's why they don't look as dominant. And if we do see enchanters step in, I think you'll see Doctor absolutely shit down everyone's throat because he plays every single counter to enchanters.
Fair enough. Does he play the enchanters?
He can. His Nami is actually kind of nuts.
Are we gonna see his Jhin and Indigo's Janna if that happens?
Well, we're not 12-1, so unlikely.
Fair enough. That is fair. But yeah, I think it's actually quite interesting because coming into the split, of course, it did feel like a super team, with as close as you can get to that in a league like this, where you have like a bunch of pieces coming together. I guess now that Fluke and some carry are even in the mix as well, it feels even more like a super team if you think about it that way. But yeah, it's interesting to see. I guess like the roster not really gelling all too well, like you mentioned with Malstixy, and that kind of thing happening, because it's a very similar thing that happens when like even pro teams make super teams, like KT Rolster. When's the last time they went to Worlds?
Oh boy,
it's been like 4 years, right? It's because they tried to make the super team and it didn't work.
I think the biggest problem we ran into this season was I was a little spread too thin, and it was difficult for me to manage individual players', I guess, personalities. Had I had more help, I think this team probably would have stuck together with Malstixy. But I do think overall for Akuma, this was a positive thing. Just having Malstixy in the org means that we can have two strong teams instead of just one. So I'm glad that despite it not working out, it was at least something we tried.
That's wholesome.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I'm going to be a little bit of the contrarian here. I actually think that similar to how we've been talking a little bit about like KT super teams and the like, where you have actual 5 carry players on the roster, right? Or at least the version where I was on it, right? And as we all know, 5 carry players doesn't work out most of the time. You have to have certain players take certain hits in their playstyle, and sometimes that playstyle, then they're just really lost, including myself, I have to say. I was really tested as a player to try to make sure my team was the best team, and I just couldn't cut it, I guess. So it's important to, I mean, obviously everyone talks about this when they talk about, like, in retrospect of the super teams they had created. They're like, they always talk about the role players, right? And most carry players can't just instantly transition to that role player perspective.
Like double
because it's
Senna.
Exactly. That's actually probably the best current year example, right? Of that, just the transition just not working.
Yeah.
And even then, like, it could push teams that we know have potential, right? TL is 4 or 5 the same players. They just removed Smithy. For some would say, most people are not saying he's a downgrade, right? Brock says at least.
I think on paper he's an upgrade in pretty much every way.
Yeah, and even at worst, they say him as a side grade, right? So But that doesn't change the fact that now they're suddenly a 2-4 team. I think,
Yeah.
if I'm correct.
Yes.
So
Well, they are now 3-5, I think.
3-5. Okay.
But yeah, there was also the visa thing, but
Obviously, yeah, obvious.
yeah. NALCS aside, I agree with what you're saying. It because they're on Tempest Rampage, Shaden was most often the carry there, with Anarch going up to the top lane. On Tempest, Akata was most often the carry, unless Wiederum popped off on Gangplank. And then on TFT, Indigo and Doctor were definitely most often the carry there. So it is like retroactively, you can look back and like point those things out, but
This is very much a 2018 TSM situation.
Feels bad,
Yeah.
man. I'm not even mentioned.
I mean, you weren't in PRL last
Yeah, I
split,
wasn't in PRL.
right?
True.
So,
Yeah.
Miss Propa, 1, 2, 3.
but anyway, yeah. So, the last team that we can really mention here, that does have a real shot at getting into playoffs is the Wolfpack.
Yeah.
And with their roster looking different every week, not even just because Anarch wasn't on it. They also had a new top laner last week, and they've had different supports. They've had, I think they've had a different mid one time, but it is back to Ryanek.
Yeah.
The only constant is Triple Lift, and he has definitely made the team about him in the 10 games that they have played. That's first of all, I don't think that works getting into playoffs in this division because the other three teams are so competent and competitive. I don't think that works in this division to try to get out of playoffs. But even if it does, even if they do have a pop-off game, I don't think it works if they get into playoffs either. What team is going to lose to that?
I think the bigger issue that you haven't mentioned yet is even if they're warping the team around to play around triple lift, which if you've seen any team with triple lift on it, it kind of happens a lot. And that's obviously that's a quality in a player that's kind of attractive to a certain extent for a team with no identity to just add one player and suddenly it's an 80 carry focus.
Right.
Right. The one issue that we're not talking about is champ pull.
Yeah.
We've only really seen triple lift on
Vayne
Vayne
Kaisa.
Kaisa. Yep.
Neither of them
And
are
as
good.
we both know, they're pretty trash. Obviously, we may see a resurgence in Vayne with tomorrow as in 220 patch drop
10.4.
with 10.4 drop.
Yeah.
Where we're gonna see massive tank buffs, mostly for jungle, but a little bit for top lane, where Vayne may suddenly just be a champion. But even then, it's very hard for teams to actually play around Vayne.
Yeah,
There was times where even though we were behind in one of my last games with Sice, right, against Wolfpack, where the Vayne looked awful, and then all of a sudden she gets a triple kill one fight, right? So there's just times where it's just super coin flip at times where you don't really know if the champion exists or it's just useless.
On top of that, if you as a player can only play the one champion, and your opposing team knows that, so say they go against Aether, and Aether, they have Magnum, who is really big on the Sejuanis, the Zacs of the jungle, and those champions don't like playing against Vayne. On top of the fact that he can only play Vayne, there's no reason not to ban it, right?
Yeah.
Because what else is
And
he
if you're
to play?
Exactly, and then if you default to the Kaisa, then you're like, he's just playing worse Vayne.
Yeah. So, it's really it's like you're saying, it is good that they have an identity and that they are positive with it. They're 7-3, but it's an identity that is so easily exploited, and it's been proven to be easily exploited too by just banning the Vayne, and it's not a good look. I think if Wolfpack has a realistic shot at getting into playoffs, they need to next week, so aka tomorrow, because we're recording this Wednesday night, play something that isn't Vayne, and maybe I'll be excited about it. Maybe I'll be excited for Wolfpack, because their next week is quite easy on paper. They have Famous Gaming Prodigy and they have Cleveland State. So
I actually also want to real quick talk about Ryan. So we've seen him have these amazing pop off performances on champions like Kiana, these Rome champions,
and Vladimir, yeah,
and Vladimir. But it's the same issue. If he doesn't get those two champions, what happens to that team? Like
they don't have a secondary carry at that point. Yeah,
exactly. We're seeing Lux. Like Lux is the next alternative to Vladimir Kiana as that's the next champion.
Oh goodness, Lux mid.
Maybe it may be
there were 2 Lux picks last week, by the way.
I cannot believe.
Yeah, I know,
that
right?
That's
too many.
I can't believe. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
We also had 3 Vi picks.
Yeah, that's another story. I think it's also really weird that we're seeing so much overall Sejuani presence. I think pretty much any jungler with a pair of hands will agree that Sejuani is terrible right now.
I mean, maybe not tomorrow.
Maybe not tomorrow, but even then, like the champions that are already good with Cinderhulk, your Jarvans, your Zacs, even your Orange jungles are just going to keep shitting on. And I don't think just because you buff Cinderhulk that all of a sudden all the duelists that have been rampaging in the meta for the last couple months just leave. You know, I still think we're going to be seeing Lee Sins. I still think we're going to be seeing Rek'Sai's and Elise's
and Olaf.
And Olaf, especially Olaf. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was almost an indirect buff because now he can go Cinderhulk and still be great.
I mean, he doesn't have any. He doesn't actually benefit from the Cinderhulk buff at all.
Yeah, I think it's just more so about Cinderhulk's always been an option for Olaf as more of a tank focused variation of his play.
Right.
You could still have his great early game, but more so just because he dominates all of it.
Yeah.
Maybe with the one exclusion being Jarvan.
Yeah. So, does Rek'Sai have an option to go Cinderhulk now? What's your opinion there? No.
I completely the champion is very one-dimensional at this point.
Yeah.
With her nerfed health cost, not health cost, but health per level, and the items and the way that work right now, I think we're still going to be seeing your off-tank Rek'Sai.
Yeah.
You might end up be seeing like Warrior Black Cleaver into tank, but even then, you're still going to be seeing most Rek'Sais be going Warrior, Black Cleaver, GA, Stacked Gauge type build.
Okay.
Even Titanic Hydra, which I'm a big fan of.
I'm actually looking forward to seeing if Kindred makes a resurgence with the Blade of the Ring King build as a tank answer.
That would actually was only buffed for melees, funny enough, to my knowledge.
What do you mean?
The Blade of the Rune King.
Well, that's not getting buffed on this patch.
Is it? I think it's on the PvE then, still.
Yeah.
Because I saw that Blade was
That's mostly just a response to the Cinderhulk. And
yeah.
the Ornn that's going to inevitably be top lane every game. But anyway.
I think Ornn's going to literally be almost the same pick ban presence as we're going to be seeing Soraka.
Ornn is going to be 100% next match. In pro play, I think he's going to be 100%.
I kind of can't believe that we're talking about tanks when Diana got a buff.
True.
It's the most disgusting, most egregious thing I've seen in my life. Somehow a champion with a 53% win rate was buffed. It's the most and she was already played competitively in Korea as a jungler, and Jungle Diana was buffed. That is the most unbelievable decision that I've seen the balance team make in a while, since maybe not hot fixing Soraka.
200 plus years of collective balance decision making. 200 years. I think we're actually also going to be seeing a surge in Darius. Probably not Talon, but I think it's an interesting buff as well.
As we all Talon buff. I don't think it's gonna matter.
I just think he's jungling from mid lane already.
Yeah.
You might as well make him a jungler.
I also think we will be seeing a lot more Sylas as a red side counterpick to things like the Gnar, because Gnar got a huge buff. But funnily enough, they buffed the AP ratio on Gnar's ult. And the way Silas's ult works,
That's
for
true.
some god-awful reason, is if it's a hybrid ratio, it just takes the ability power ratio. So now Silas gets a 1-to-1 AP ratio Gnar ult. How absolutely insane is this? Riot Games. On the same patch, Silas gets a Q buff.
Yeah, that's true. You gotta be careful picking Gnar.
I already think we saw some Gnar actually picked an LCK, if I remember correctly, specifically as a set response, and even then it looks terrible. I just
Most things
don't
look
know
terrible in the
really.
set.
I don't know really why we're seeing any Gnar picks. I think the one tricks are playing him still. I mean, as in general, you're gonna see one tricks play their champion,
Right.
but we're seeing very little Gnar play, and I don't know how he would ever squeeze himself into the meta.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see him more with like a weirder split push build again, where we're gonna see Bork, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Towards like Scion, maybe if he comes in ever.
We're definitely going off topic from the Fire Division, but I
Yeah.
want to point out that I think a big reason as to why Gnar is not as good as he used to be is because they have continually power crept damage in the game, and they've continually nerfed tanks and made people easier to kill. And with that happening, fights don't last as long. So Gnar just intrinsically does not have the capability to be a part of a fight in a meaningful way most of the time. So not only is he much more difficult to pilot in a meta like this, where the game is a lot faster in terms of fights, the window is smaller, and he hasn't been rewarded in any way. So I think just based on the Gnar bar and intrinsically how it works, it doesn't work too well in how the game is shaping up to be. But if tanks come back, and if the Cinderhulk Immolate Sunfire mess does create a situation where you are regularly seeing 2 to 3 tanks, that might change things, and he might come back.
Gnar bad. Don't
Gnar
play
bad.
it.
Luck's bad. Don't play it.
Luck's bad too. Luck's quite
Kaisa bad. Don't play it either.
Kaisa bad.
All right,
Cacta
let's
bad.
talk about Friday.
Yeah, let's move
Yeah,
to
let's-
Friday. Yeah, we've
Got a whole
been
lot to
going.
talk about.
We've been
This
going on
division.
for that one for a while, but yeah. Cinders Division. What a mess. What's
Yeah.
going on here? I don't know what this is. Tempest is out, so we're only going to talk about the top 5 here, which is real quick. Essentia Storm at 10-1. There's different game numbers, by the way, because the 2FFs. Soulbound Tsunami at 9-3. SBK Defiance at 8-3. LC Avengers 7-4, and Imperial Knights also at 7-4. Yeah, so some of these teams only have 2 more games to play. Some of them have 3. But yeah, that's going to shape up things in an interesting way. But yeah, the bottom line is that Tempest Gaming is eliminated. And Essentia Storm are likely going to be locked in very soon.
Yeah, it seems for the matches at least that Essentia is moving the week. Essentia overall just looks like a really solid team. Seems they're not really punished, really, ever. It seems like Tea Time has done a semi-great job, I guess, drafting for them. So that we're just at this point now where it seems that there's no real counters to them. As we mentioned earlier at the very start of a podcast, that we don't think it's exactly one of the hardest divisions. So they're not really faced with any real competition. On top of the fact that they have two teams and FFing. I think we're seeing less of a race for first and second, which I think are pretty much locked with Essentia Storm and Soulbound, and more of a race for third.
I would agree. I am liking Essentia's adaptivity to the meta and everything. They were the first team to pick up the Soraka in PRL, which is definitely notable because that champion is very good. They have a revolving door of top lane and jungle, but it seems like they are all memes aside, it seems like they are doing it semi-orderly, where
Yeah,
they do planned things and they have their different junglers playing different things, which is definitely a good thing to have on a team. Um, which we can talk a little bit more when we get to Soulbound. But the yeah, the bottom line is that this team has tea time and no other team has tea time, and it definitely shows when you see them play things like Soraka, when you see them having no top lane main per se, but they still are going even or winning the matchup sometimes. And yeah, I'm pretty excited for this team. They also have fancy Italian, so it's always fun to watch.
for sure, for sure. I actually would want to talk more about their almost transition from it seemed not exploitable, but they seemed a much worse team when they were having Demon play AD carry. But then as soon as we seen Yellow step up, they look like a completely different. And it seems whereas before I could say, oh, they could drop a game or two here or there, and maybe they don't get first place, but probably they get first place. So now this is just the first place team. I don't think
Yeah,
there's really a competition there.
Yellow
I
is
think,
quite good.
yeah,
I agree. I think Demon should stick up to the top lane. Maybe J-Web can move up there too, but he's also in the jungle rotation. So I don't know what's going on, but I definitely agree. I think Yellow should be the starting AD from here on out.
yep.
SPK sucks.
Yeah, can we talk about SPK real
We'll
quick?
move to
I don't
SPK
want
instead
to.
of Soulbound, but SPK.
This whole organization is a dumpster fire.
I
Like,
I
I'm historically known for shitting on SPK as an org. To give you some history, I played against SPK at GXPC, and we once held them hostage for 70 minutes while we all built Essence Reavers and ZZ Raw portals and ended the game with 5 ZZ Raw portal Baron push. Just watching the minions do the work. This organization is exceptional at finding 5 players who only know how to play one style, and that style also sucks dick. And also, their players are individually not good. I am shocked that this team managed to win 7 games, but at the same
3
time,
games.
I'm not. Well, yeah, okay, but I am shocked that this team managed to win any games.
Or excuse me,
SPK,
they won 4. It's 4. They're
SPK
at 8.
Defiance is brutal. Watching this team play, they are a product of the worst division in PRL history. They are a product of opponents who don't know how to prepare against them, and they are a product of 2 FF teams.
Yep.
This team is awful. I don't think they'll make playoffs, but that being said, I don't think Imperial Knights is much better. The only teams worth looking at in this division are Soulbound when they're trying, and
Which isn't too often.
Ascension Storm. I think Soulbound is really good. They have really, really strong individual players, but it is an affront to God that SPK has 8 wins.
Yeah, I kind of even want to just talk a little bit about their drafts. They both SBK teams, it seems, in the Friday division and the Saturday division.
They really like Sejuani.
Not only do they just fucking love that trash can of a pick, Sorry, I'm getting a little heated because I don't understand why people think that champ's good right now. Except with Omnistone, that's the one exception.
Omnistone Sedge.
Yep, I'll ride Omnistone Sedge, but my biggest issue is with the coach. Besides the org, Goose already talked about how I don't ever think I've ever scrimmed a SPK team or played against an SPK team where we didn't absolutely demolish them 20-minute FFs every game, basically.
Yeah.
The problem is though, is that their coach that they have, right? Even if it may be 2 different people, if they have one, they probably have one. But even if they have 2, that one guy is so far out of reach with the meta and how it works, and it just probably plays at an Iron 2 level because he thinks building 3 tanks and 1 damage dealer is
Doesn't
going
even
to
deal
work.
that much damage, by the way.
Exactly. It's not like you have like a vein or something that will just rip through teams at times. It's like
Senna.
Oriana. It's like Senna, Oriana, and it's like,
Lissandra.
okay, buddy. Exactly. You have 3 tanks, and they're just getting like they're like, oh man, we're really ahead. Let's fight. They can't kill us, and then they can't kill the opponents either. So they eventually just die anyway. And it's like, it's just, I don't understand how they have 4 wins.
They managed to lose to the 97% win rate in Scrim's team. Okay? Tempest is so fucking bad, and they lost to that. Okay? I'm looking at this draft versus Tempest.
This is Tempest 2.0. They
picked Ornn, Sejuani, Diana, MF, Braum. Okay, let's do this. Let's walk your little small SPK brains through this. In what world do you kill Set and Trundle? In what universe do you have the damage to kill Set and Trundle? You don't. It doesn't exist.
Or you
Universe
can't even
does
kill
not
Leona.
exist.
Leona builds 1 gargoyle, and you can't even kill her.
Why?
Oh my god.
You're not picking for early game. You're not picking for late game. So technically, if you're not picking for early or late, you're not picking for mid game. What are you doing? What are you doing?
And it's not even just like it's a one-time occurrence that it's happened. It's every fucking
game.
draft. How do you expect you have a lot of people talking about how much draft means for games. Obviously, it's arbitrary. Some say it's 20%. Some say it's 90%. How do you expect your players to play the game when you give them a 0% chance to win? And even then, the enemy team just suddenly is like, yeah, here's the win, sure.
They lost to Tempest, bro.
Yeah. Credit to Tempest though. They did pick up a win. That's pretty good.
Credit to Tempest. Woohoo! You got out of your wheelchair. Great work. All right.
They did
get
good. A win.
Essentia good.
Everything else, just move on, please.
Kill it with fire.
I mean, I think the only other team that you can really talk
I like
about
Imperial Knights because I like Osnapsky. I like what he's doing there. I like Cruiser.
Yeah,
Cruiser is good.
Cruiser is really good.
Everyone else, maybe just move on from those players.
Cruiser is so good though, man.
Can we actually also talk about the fact that LC Avengers is also like this revolving door of players, and we don't know. Nobody knows. Probably even the players don't even know who's playing that week.
I forgot that team existed. Apto's pretty good.
You want to know something really funny?
What?
On their roster right now, Daily Peach is there, and Daily Peach is the person who played on the other SPK team. He played 2 games of Lethality Vi, and then he left entirely.
You know what? Nice. You want to know? It's also big meme. LC Avengers also has Deku on the team, which is also on Saturday Division.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you want to check it out? He's their sub number 1.
He's right there.
Yeah.
Kind of pog.
This is just SPK 2.
I think they have better drafting though. I think literally if you just remove the coach from SBK and let the player, you wouldn't even have to have a coach for the players. You could remove the coach and the players would do better drafting. They could pick fuck all and it wouldn't matter.
I like Sir Rizel as a person, but when I saw the new SBK lineup, SBK Embers lineup, and I saw that he wasn't on it, and I saw that Yarg wasn't on it. Yarg was bigger. I was really happy about that. But when I saw Sir Rizel wasn't on it, I was excited too, because I thought that their other team members were pretty good. And you're not going to get this reference, Justin, but for Ryan and for those of you listening who watched the last split, putting Sir Rizel on a team is equivalent to me as when Oh My Dear from OTA Cinders last split found a team.
Oh God, I know that guy.
Found a team in playoffs, and he joined them after already seeing what he did on OTA Cinders. They still picked him up, and it was on Famous Gaming, by the way. This is the equivalent of that. Some of you guys are not going to get that because this is your first split with PRL, and I'm sorry.
I know. Oh My Dear from not solo queue, but from other leagues.
Probably not from solo queue. I don't think you're in gold.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
No, I meant
Is he in
from
gold?
because he
He might be
played
lower than
in
that.
UML. He actually played in UML, and I do know him from there. And yikes, that's all I want to say.
Yeah, that's what this reminds me of. Not to that extent. No one can ever reach the oh my dear level of this is the worst player I've ever seen, because he played okay. He first timed jungle Malphite and then he died to wolves at level 3, and he didn't ult. He never ulted more than one person.
I think the most
Malphite.
important thing is that they lost to Consume Nut.
They did, yeah. They lost to Zephyr with Nutty9 playing support.
And Consumed playing the game.
Yep. So.
Does it really matter what role?
Some context there. Shout out to Nutty9.
Shout out to my boy Nutty.
It wasn't even that they lost, by the way. They lost 3-0 to Nutty9 on support. But
0-12.
I digress. So I think we're all in agreement here that it doesn't really matter which team makes it out of
2-horse race.
Yeah, it doesn't matter which team makes it out here. They're not gonna win once it comes playoffs.
And you better hope that you place highly so you don't have to play Soulbound early.
Yeah.
Because this team is really good.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think, as we said, it's just a dumpster fire in this division. We have two teams, actually, realistically, that could compete at the level of the other teams, and then you have a SBK somehow in running for third place.
Yep. But yeah, I really like Essentia Storm. Good. Essentia good.
Yeah.
Shout out to Spartans, who was in that game where I held them hostage. Shout out to Spartans. You'll remember.
Oh man. Soulbound good.
Soulbound
I'm a little bit salty with you guys because
good.
you memed my podcast questions, and I'm not going to answer any of them. Spoilers, by the way, if you're listening, I'm not going to answer any of your questions later, so you can skip that part if you're not interested. But you guys are good players, so
Mechanically talented.
Yeah.
Go win.
I like the Bard from Core Havoc. But anyway,
Really good at
I think Core Havoc and Steel City are the best two players on that roster by far.
Yeah, I would agree.
That's because I don't know who else is playing.
True. Anyway,
Saturday.
let's move to Saturday. You know what? Let's keep this momentum going, guys. Let's keep this momentum going.
SBK
sucks. Bad.
SBK bad. Big shock. They pick Sejuani.
SBK.
They
SBK
wonder why
so
they lose.
bad. SBK so bad. Come on, guys.
I just get sad watching them draft is the worst part. You know? Like
Let's just read through what their draft was in this game against Ferocity. Let's take a journey together, everyone. So they've got the Sejuani, of course. That's in the jungle. They've got Yorick top lane, which they picked
Smax,
into
let me
Irelia.
just stop you. Yeah, let me just stop you right here. Does Deku understand that Irelia can stack her Q and instantly kill your children when you play Yorick? Does he know this?
And he can.
I don't think in all his wisdom, in all his Fiora playing wisdom, it's Fiora, Shen, Ornn, Mordekaiser playing wisdom. I don't think he knew that. And you know how I know I don't think he knew that? Because he fucking picked this fucking matchup. You have to hate your teammates to play this matchup.
And yourself.
You have to absolutely hate your teammates to play this matchup.
You know
play this matchup into a player who isn't bad. Shut Boomer, not a bad player.
Boomer's good.
Shocking. Yeah.
It is. Why is Sleepy playing Karma?
Yeah, Karma. Sleepy's back on his.
Are you gonna empower the Sejuani?
He's back on his classic
empower the
pick.
Misfortune? I don't think the team understands how to put together a team of 5 champions. I think what they do understand is how to put together a team of 2 champions, which is Leona and MF. And once you pick those 2 champions, the fucking train goes way off the tracks, and you end up in Bizarro World where people are playing Sejuani for no reason with Olaf up, Sejuani for no reason with Trundle up, Sejuani for no reason with any other jungler in the game up. Okay? And then here's the bonus part. You're picking it with fucking Yorick, bud. What are you gonna do? Cage them? Oh, you're gonna get the Sejuani stun? Great. Then what? Then what's your plan after that?
Even then,
You picked Karma, MF, Leona, Sejuani. And what did you top that off with? A champion who's about as useful as a fucking caster minion while grouped. Great job. Great job, fellas.
Okay,
Great
he's got 2 caster minions. He's got himself and
Unbelievable.
the maiden.
Unbelievable.
The only thing that was shocking about this game was that for how Ferocity wasn't able to close it 15 minutes sooner. It was that bad. I don't think
Their
I've
main
ever
DPS
seen.
was Ziggs. Give him a
True.
break.
They're also not playing with Orbit.
Yeah, true.
Orbit is a very integral part of that team. I actually think Orbit's pretty good.
Orbit's quite good, yeah.
The worst part about that match in particular, since we're just talking about it right now, was I've never seen a top diff happen in competitive that was so absolutely disgusting that showed he didn't know the matchup, he didn't know how to play the lane as York, he didn't know how to play against Irelia, he didn't know what the champion he was playing did, he didn't know what his team was doing. He had fucking Sejuani. Like, what the fuck?
York is already a bad champion, but you pick it into his worst
you're
possible
also pairing him with
matchup.
3 other ones.
So I think Yorick isn't a bad red side counter pick, specifically into mages or Jace. Irelia is neither.
Nope.
Little known fact, Irelia, real mobile champion, can get out of your little Thunderdome. And then once she gets out of your Thunderdome, well, she just kills you and your entire family.
Yeah. How do you expect to hit an E on Irelia?
Maybe you just don't skill it.
You know what's the worst part is even in the case that he does, Irelia just press fucking Q, and the minions are literally like her escape and get away.
And so the problem I'm having as well with SPK is a lot of times when they lose games and they lose games convincingly, they'll always go back to, oh, we grief draft. Oh, we grief draft. It's like, motherfucker, you grief draft every single game. Every single match you grief draft. And the only reason you win is because you are in the division of teams that don't know how to close a game before 20 minutes. The only team who understands how to close a game pre-25 minutes is Akuma Katanas and someone who played against X1 last week.
We can move to them actually. Let's do that. Jet Black looking kind of nice. They're on a 5-win streak.
I disagree.
You don't think that they're on a 5-win streak? I'm kidding.
I agree that they're on a 5-game win streak. I disagree that they're looking good.
Okay. I think their game against X1 was very good.
Sure.
X1 is not very good. But
I think people are overlooking the problem with Jet Black in that if Cam isn't winning the jungle matchup pre-10 minutes, this team is absolutely lost. And they will take a coin flip team fight any opportunity they get it. Also, Rob, he's great. Mordekaiser, man. Good for you, buddy. You can play Mordekaiser. Let me know when you get out of the wheelchair. I'm so proud of you. You can play Mord, bro.
I also don't know in what world.
This team's pre-10 minutes is one of the most exploitable pre-10 minutes in the entire league. They don't draft any gank setup for Cam. It is entirely on Cam to land every single one of his spells, or a gank just won't work. Picking Zac with Mord, picking Zac with Aphelios Morgana, and picking Zac with Orianna, you are coin flipping on whether or not your opponents are sentient. If they are no longer sentient, sure, you can win a game in 23 minutes because Zac can just keep spam ganking, right? But if they are sentient, you're not going to get anything done. It's not going to happen.
I didn't really look at it that way when I was watching their X1 game, but now that you mention it, it does look like that because whenever you could see it on the players of X1's faces, whenever they saw the big circle of the elastic slingshot, they would go, "Ah! Run! We can't fight this!
If
Run!"
you watch the first 10 minutes of the game versus X1, which is half the game, right?
Yes.
X1 versus Jet Black. not a single ward was placed in a position where Zach is going to be ganking you from. They are still warding the river. They are still warding Tribrush. I'm sorry, bud. That's not what's going to happen. Have you ever played against Zach? Have you ever played against Rek'Sai before in your entire life? Because they gank from the same areas. I could give you a tutorial, maybe. Maybe ask then Uncle Phil for some help, because clearly they need it.
You know what?
Yeah.
The worst part I feel about it is that, like, overall, even the champions that they're playing, they're not even building them to the point of, like, wow, they're optimally doing damage here. Like, can we just real quick, like, look at the builds? Obviously, besides the support Morgana, because that's a pretty standard whatever one. But we got Nashor's 2 second item Mordekaiser into set. Like, in what world are you winning a 1v1 in auto attacks against a set? Let's, for one.
In a world
2,
where the set is X1 Fire Scope.
Also, really hate that Orianna build.
Yeah, I hate it too. You want to also talk about Lucidity boots Zach in 2020?
Luden's Orianna is okay. I do think GLP Spellbinder Orianna is infinitely better right now because it's a stronger 2-item spike than anything that you can buy with Luden's.
And it also sets your team up.
It's cheaper, and it makes it so that you're reliably landing your QWs in these short trade fights. The cooldown on GLP is really short as well. I just think that it's way too strong to pass up. Obviously, this game it worked out because I guess Alex Uncle Phil might have unplugged X1's monitors or something. That's kind of the only way that I see this game playing out the way it did. Don't take this as flame, Jet Black. I like you guys. I promised I'd win trade. But I just think that you shouldn't rest on your laurels.
Yeah, because they lost
even
the draft.
Even if you make playoffs playing and drafting the way that you are currently, I don't think you're going to last very long in this tournament. And I would like to see someone in the division of Katanas really make a push because I don't think anyone can.
They lost this draft. I don't think that's really debatable. They have
they got a Felios,
but the other team got set, so that's kind of like you're trading good picks there. They locked in the Morgana bot lane, which can't punish Braum Senna. You can't. They get to scale up and be like really, really defensive. And on top of that, X1 actually did draft damage because they have Set and Cassio, and they have Engage with the Jarvan too. If this game is even at 10 minutes or at 15 minutes, if it's even, then I don't think Jet Black can win this game. So, like you're mentioning, it is just on Cam to find all of these ganks in every lane so they can win them all, or it just doesn't work.
Yeah, it also kind of showed to me that Supreme doesn't play Rumble. Rumble was let through this draft. As you can see from the Katanas games, Rumble is like really high on our priority list right now because the champion is really stupid, can be flexed into 4 roles reliably in top, mid, jungle, and support. I think the champion is really, really broken, and teams need to start putting more and more priority on it because it is so difficult to punish at this level of play in any lane. And you basically eliminate the opponent's ability to pick Senna or Aphelios by picking that champion because they have to ban Kiana, they have to ban Jarvan, they have to ban Gragas, they have to ban... There's too many champions that they need to ban. And on top of that, all Rumble has to do is just drop his little Victor E equalizer right on top of the AD carry, and he can't DPS anymore. He has to back up. That level of DPS loss is basically the same thing as a full item Ornn, because the AD carry not being able to DPS in a team fight is more important than you being able to tank him, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I would like to see teams maybe pick up the Rumble priority, especially in this division, because you have to end games before 40 minutes, guys.
Yeah, no one is doing it. Except for Akuma Katanas and teams that are playing against X1 Brotherhood while they're asleep.
Yeah.
So I guess the other team that is not Akuma Katanas, we'll get to them last. The other team that is not Akuma Katanas that we have not talked about is Ferocity. We talked about them a little bit and how we're wishing that Orbit plays, and how Shut Boomer is quite good. They've got Rough Beans too, who I think is a really good mid laner. He's quite solid there. I would put him at probably second best mid in this division, behind Klexo. And then I'd probably do the same for Shut Boomer actually too. I'd put him second after Coronavirus.
Well, there's still no cure for coronavirus. So.
There is no cure. There's just no cure.
Yeah. I think ferocity is showed by Shut Boomerang against SBK, right? You can play through topside with this team, and I don't think it's been happening enough, realistically. Obviously you could still kind of play through your bot side of the map, being your bot lane or your mid lane, but I kind of want to diverge this talk into a little bit of Bates Nest, which I would like to argue is the worst jungler of PRL.
Tempest Gaming exists, bro.
True.
Yeah,
He's the worst of the playoff bound teams, or the teams that
the positive
potentially could
teams.
make playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, mostly I'm talking about them, but
Yeah.
it's more. I just don't know, man. This guy's playing. He's playing meta champions, which is more than you can say of some people.
Yeah.
And shout out to SPK, by the way. But when he builds them, he doesn't understand why he's going these builds. He doesn't really understand what he should be doing. He's consistently going like 0-3, 0-4 in the jungle very early. And when you're picking these champions that are very much focused on early game dominance, dying early is the worst.
Yeah.
It is. I just do not understand how you have this player on this team, which it could be so much better. And anyway,
So
by getting a jungler that knew what they were doing.
I think as a general statement here, if you are a team that will regularly go to 40 minutes, I think just based on how the jungle position works, I think that just automatically makes your jungler, you have to raise questions, because the jungler really just runs the pace of the early game, and if you're not setting things up correctly, then your jungler's probably not very good.
Yeah.
Unless you're playing Master Yi Funnel.
True. Part of me is like, wow, SPK is so bad for picking Sejuani, but maybe Sejuani is the answer for Bates Nest. if we're actually
it
going
clearly
to
wasn't.
I have an opinion on ferocity, and
okay.
I have spoken negatively of BeatsNet, Betisnet, whatever, Beatisneedy, whatever the hell you want to call him. I've spoken negatively about him, but from watching their games, I think this team struggles to find an identity, and I think that it stems from Miracle being not particularly strong. I think that their bot lane is very weak and exploitable, and it leads to him having to pray that topside gets priority, and if they don't, then he's just completely left on an island and boned. And I'm sure, as you know, Malstixy, playing a champion like Olaf without lane prio in any of your lanes is a nightmare, especially when your mid laner is picking stuff like Silas and Ziggs. You just don't have the ability to fight the enemy jungler, right? But he's still going for those fights.
Yeah, he still tries.
He still tries. But I think this team is struggling from a bit of an identity issue as far as what lane they're trying to play through. Because Rough Beans' champion pool is not an easy champion pool to play through. It's kind of like playing through Sleepily.
I don't think it's that bad, but
it's
not
bad.
Sleepily bad, but it is.
I think that Rough Beans is a good player, but I think that if you're unironically picking Ziggs in 2020, then you've got some bigger issues.
Well, wait, hold up.
I think Ziggs is okay.
What about our boy AKM Griffin?
I think Ziggs is really bad. Any situation where you would think Ziggs would be good, you're better off just playing Vel'Koz.
Yeah, probably. I would actually.
I knew you were going to say that.
I think
it's just an inarguably stronger champion.
I think, though, that you can make Ziggs work. I
Yeah,
don't
you can
think
make him work.
I don't
I
think
don't think
Ferocity
it's
is making it.
It's not worth the mental gymnastics, right?
Yeah.
What's the point of trying to make Ziggs work when you can play a better champion? Like, what's the point of trying to make Miracle into someone who can play the Aphelios and who can play the Senna and whatnot when
Yeah, because
kind of proven so far that he's just a Xayah player?
Yeah, he played the Aphelios in that game against SBK, and I remember he was like 7th most damage or something like that.
He
Something
is
completely outrageous.
a Xayah player. He should be playing Xayah.
Yeah.
Ezreal would be a pick that I would suggest to them. We don't play against Ferocity, so I would suggest you pick up the Ezreal. The champion is being slept on. I think it's really broken right now, specifically with the Galio, with the a little more offensive junglers, or I mean supports. I do think that into Enchanters, that Rumble Ezreal is a fucking disgusting lane, by the way. Like, there's nothing that an Enchanter can do against Rumble Ezreal. Yeah, Ezreal Yumi as well is an interesting like jungle funnel strat, basically.
Yeah.
This team could be doing a lot more, and I don't want to necessarily just blame Beatisneedy, Betisnet, Beatsnet, because it's not entirely on him.
Yeah, I would also agree, but in general, I think
He's still bad.
Yeah, he's in my opinion, he's still bad, but it's more exasperated and more showing when your team is also bad. You know what I mean? It's very easy as a jungler to look good when you're on a good team, or look bad when you're on a bad team. But it really takes some quote unquote outstanding play to show when your team is doing bad and you're just like, what the fuck's that guy? You know?
Yeah. It's true of support too, but yeah, it's definitely more pronounced when you're the jungler. But they are positive though, so I think he is still an anchor a lot of the times. But we've stalled enough. Let's get to Akuma Katanas now. This team is going to get first place in this division.
Yep.
They don't have competition here.
Yep.
That's the kind of one thing that I feared. Luckily, we're getting good scrims. Also, Corona is playing with the Akuma Blades right now. So he's getting a lot of individual reps that are really good on our days off. But yeah, there's not a lot of competition in this division. The only game that we lost was because I trusted Forbidden to be able to play Tahm Kench after he told me he could play it. And I don't think we're going to lose another game. If we do, it would be to Jet Black because I feel bad for them. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of it.
Yeah.
We seem to be the only team who understands the 8-minute Rift Herald swap and how you actually do it. You don't just leave bot lane. It has to be prepped. Dragon ideally has to be off the board because it's not worth trading Rift Herald for a Dragon and the same amount of plates that you would get on bot side.
Yep.
A lot of teams just kind of don't push out their top or their mid or their bot lane. They just kind of swap for the sake of swapping. That's why we're always first to the play and we always take the fight. And we always win the fight. I'm drafting champions that enable my players to take these fights. I just think we have the best players in every role. So it makes the game a lot easier, at least in this division. I don't want to say best player in every role in this tournament. In this division, I think it's inarguable. We have the best player in every role.
Yeah, I would actually agree.
Yeah.
I think, as you mentioned, that you want to say for every division, but I think that Coronavirus and Doubtful specifically, and to a certain extent, Forbidden, but I think Forbidden's role is a little bit different. I'll get into it in a second. I think that Coronavirus and Doubtful themselves can actually reach for that top of their role in the league. And then on to Forbidden a little bit. It's hard to, I don't know everything about them because I'm on Akuma right now, so I do know a little bit of insert information. But I've talked to him and I've seen how he plays, and I think that team. Obviously, they were previously known as Asian Invasion, and I kind of linking this into the whole Hyung aspect of like Korean culture, where whatever he says, they just follow. And dear fucking lord, they will fall off a cliff if Chris tells them to. And Chris is Forbidden. So
Yeah, I have a kind of my own view of this where I kind of view my guys as lemmings. So there's I'm sure as people know, a popular myth where lemmings would commit mass suicide. So if one of them jumps off the cliff, every single one of them will jump off the cliff because they know that they have each other's backs. And I mean, chances are if one of them's doing it, then it's probably the right call. This has been the most fun team I've ever had to work with. I'm enjoying my time every time I talk to them. They're some of the most flexible players I've gotten to work with. Forbidden, in particular, is willing to take anything that I give him. We have a couple of picks in the pipeline that I'm excited to bust out maybe this weekend. So keep an eye out for that, I guess.
Sweet. I always love new support picks. That's like my favorite thing in all of League of Legends is new support picks. That's the best. So that's awesome. Yeah, I'm really high on this team. Obviously, I was last split too. For those of you who were listening for last split, I was the biggest Asian invasion fan in the entire world. Still am. And yeah, it didn't affect my analysis up until the very end, where I predicted them to beat Go next, and they didn't. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Akuma Katanas. I agree that this team is very fun to work with as well. I've subbed for a scrim for the AD carry position for them, and it was the easiest games of League of Legends that I've ever played. Because as the AD carry on that team, you're just like, oh, everyone's going in. Oh, they're killing everyone. All right, I'll just right click people as they stand in front of me and commit to every play. It's a great way to play League of Legends, and
Sure.
I'm really glad that they're doing it. I'm really glad that they are doing it successfully, and I'm really glad that I get to cast and talk about it. It's really fun. So
I will say I was handed a very easy hand to play. Thin Uncle Phil, Alex did a very good job of teaching them the fundamentals. And I think that this team just needed someone who would harness their, I guess, for lack of a better word, Papega-ness. Someone who would just let them go wild and would prepare game plans that would, facilitate that play style.
right.
So I'm glad that it was me because I love these guys.
I have a question for you before we like close out this division here.
Sure.
Would this team in this split, so after Thin Ungleville, would this team make playoffs if they had the SPK coach?
no.
No, because I hate to take credit for what my players do, right? Because
I
they're the
did
ones
compare you
playing
to
the
the
games.
worst coach.
True, they're the ones playing the games. They're the ones, putting the work in. I'm just the one picking the champions and giving them the game plan. But I do think it's about 80% them and 20% myself. I think this team just kind of lacked structure. It lacked, like Asian Invasion lacked structure. It lacked an identity. It lacked someone who was able to harness the way they wanted to play the game rather than how the game should have been played.
Yeah.
And I think if anyone else would be doing the job that I'm doing right now with this team, I think they would be worse. Do I think they'd be much worse? Probably not, but they would definitely not be as good as they are currently.
They would be 9-1 for sure.
I think they would be in the soup. So like 6-4, 5-5.
All right. Cool. One last thing I want to touch on before we close out the Ashes division here. We are going to be streaming Red Hair Pirates versus EQ Lightning. That's happening on Saturday.
Wait.
So
that's a match of titans.
yeah.
That's the
Also,
Vitality versus Schalke matchup that I'm looking forward to.
Oh yeah. Also, I want to point out that the standings are currently wrong as of the recording of this video. EQ Lightning actually did beat Red Hair Pirates the first time. So, as of this moment,
Will
EQ
Red
Lightning.
Hair Pirates even be showing up though? Because they no-showed both their games last week.
So did EQ Lightning. So.
Kind of nice.
You never know. I'm hoping that they
Ultimate
both do.
Showmatch.
I'm hoping that they both do because that's going to be a banger.
I'm looking forward to it if it happens.
Yeah. If it doesn't happen, then we're going to be seeing TFT versus SPK Embers, and that's a snooze fest. So that's why I picked this match.
Actually, it's not a snooze fest. Shout out to my boy BBM, Justin. He's a good friend of mine. I love that guy.
There you go. Yeah, it's the hard knock life here for the 3 bottom teams here in the Ashes division. Competition is pretty stiff. Okay, well, Akuma Katanas are far and away the big boss of the Ashes division, and then the middle clump there of 4 teams is pretty tough to beat if you are the bottom.
The soup.
So, yeah, there's the soup. There you go. The soup of ashes. But yeah. Let's move to Sunday here. So Sunday's quite interesting. We have a pretty clear-cut top 3 who very well could be the ones making playoffs at this point. As we've got Original at 8-2, and then Go Next OTA are tied at 7-3, and then underneath that we have the Badids, who just recently have been looking pretty solid because the Badid himself is playing. He led them to a 2-0 week, and then underneath them we have two teams that are not mathematically eliminated yet, but we're not going to touch on them too much because they are pretty far off, and those are FG Snowflakes and Element 5. Worth noting that Element 5 was the first team to take down Go Next Gaming, and then Go Next proceeded to lose 2 more games and barely scraped by in their game against University of Wyoming. So, Element 5 may be the team that broke Go Next Gaming.
Full disclosure.
That's a storyline.
I only watched 2 of these games. I also watched the off-stream Go Next game.
Right.
I'm sure as people know, I'm very good friends with Bishan and or not very good friends, but I'm friends with Bishan. I'm very good friends with Kiwi. And I like to watch their games. To skip over the Badids versus FG Snowflakes because it was just a spaghetti quest.
Yep. Lulu mid, by the way.
So, actually, you guys talk about that first game. I'm going to find something really quick.
Okay. Lulu mid, by the way. Moby's Ludens into support items.
I really don't. Recently, we've been seeing a resurgence in mid Lulu for whatever reason. I don't really think it's a meta pick that's really coming back ever.
No.
Or even at a support level, it's still kind of trolling to pick the champion. Unless with certain champions like Kog'Maw or something like that, or Twitch. And even then, it's still kind of troll.
Yeah, because...
But they went Lost Chapter, whatever. You can still build that into GOP, which I think would probably be the best choice there.
It's just a good laning item, too.
Yeah. Then Moby's, which is certainly an item to go on your mid Lulu.
Quick tangent here. I had someone in my solo queue game tell me that the best boots for Vel'Koz mid right now are mobility boots. Thoughts?
They're off the rocker. Let's just say that.
That's what I was thinking too.
I think.
Anyway,
you could make an argument for Lucidities, but Sorks probably are the best by far.
Mobility boots Vel'Koz mid. I don't know, man. It felt like I was getting targeted there, but
I mean, I got inted by a Predator and Evia with Moby boots as well the other day. But anyways, it's still so troll to really go from Lost Chapter to Moby boots. Then you complete Ludens, which is like, okay, I guess we're gonna see an AP Lulu straight into Ardent, like
Ardent Athene's redemption.
Exactly. It's like, I mean, for sure it worked out, I guess, but that was more so because FG just fucking took the game, chucked it out the window, and even then the Badids had to take a shovel and excavate it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There was at one point
Joe Poppy was still at the Super Bowl from what little I saw.
Oh god. Oh, the Super Bowl meme. They really did that to themselves. But yeah, there was a point when Famous 5-for-0 aced them.
Yep.
And then they got 5-for-0 aced 2 minutes later.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Is it 18 minutes too? I don't.
Let's not even mention that Skarner fucking started out the game 0-3.
Yeah, by invading.
Warrior Skarner, kind of pog.
Yeah, Warrior Sheen Skarner, except he didn't finish the Sheen into anything until way late game. He went Black Cleaver, Sterix, Stoneplate, and
Gargoyle,
then finished
and then
the Iceborne.
Far be it for me to question Badid.
Yeah,
He is Badid.
yeah, he is Badid. In fact, actually,
Yeah,
to be fair though, I think this team does look better than whatever it was before. But is that really much of an improvement? We
Nope.
can't really tell at this point. So
Can they make it into playoffs? Probably not.
Probably not. Yep. I think it'd be interesting if they did.
So I found the thing I was looking for the Go Next original game. And
Okay.
I'm not exactly a draft expert. Okay, I've been only doing this for as long as I've known Justin. So Malstixy, maybe like 2 months max. So I'm looking at this original Go Next draft. So original bans: Irelia, Lee Sin, Akali. Typical bans versus Go Next: you want the Irelia gun, you want the Lee Sin gun. Akali, kind of unnecessary, but I guess teams are still playing it, like TSM. And then Go Next bans: Rise, Set, Ornn. Okay bans, not crazy about it, because you're also leaving up Trollface's signature Shen. I don't think they're going to prio the set very much for Trollface. He likes to play weak side a lot. His set is good, don't get me wrong, but there are picks into the set. Anyways, so my problem comes with, you give over Rumble first pick, and you know how much of a Rumble first pick stan I am, right? The champion's disgusting. And then you answer with Taliyah Aphelios. I hate Aphelios into Rumble. I think Aphelios is good, sure, but I hate it specifically into the Rumble because it means that you can no longer DPS unless you have Calibrum ult.
Yep.
It's too difficult to play mid and late. It's very hard to execute on, and you need to draft Peel. You have to draft Peel. It is you have to. No argument. So then original answers with MF Jarvan. Right then and there, Go Next lost the draft. Because you've given over Rumble, MF, Jarvan. Even if original is dribbling spit all over their chins and their keyboards, and their hands are broken, and their grandmothers just passed away last night, it is very difficult to lose with these 3 core champions. Unless Go Next picks Braum. Then it's winnable. It's
winnable,
entirely winnable if Go Next picks Braum. And Go Next answers with what champion?
Leona.
They answer with Leona, of course, because Leona Aphelios is a strong lane. Definitely. Totally good, especially into Rumble. It is impossible for Aphelios to be able to DPS with this team comp. Okay? But now you have Taliyah in the jungle. It's never going to go mid. Tron can't play it. So then original bans Diana, Orianna, 2 staple picks for Mr. Troners.
Yep.
Which forces him onto basically 1 or 2 champions. And then Go Next bans Nautilus, Kled.
Yep.
The Kled ban kind of makes not a lot of sense because you're kind of over-indexing into engage, and you don't have enough defense if you draft the Kled. So let's say if you have 5 engage tools, right? All the other team has to do is never be in a position to let you engage, right? They just sit back, they split push you to death, and there's nothing you can do.
Or just pick
right?
Kindred.
Sure,
but they're not going to put that jungle anyway.
So, and then Go Next answers with a blind Syndra. Blind Syndra is fine because the Rumble is a flex pick, right? So you're technically blinding the Syndra, but I absolutely can't stand the idea of Syndra and Taliyah as a combo. All you have to do, and granted, Kalandini didn't do it because he's a Chad, but all I would have done is you buy Merc Treads and you take double MR, and you will never die to one of these ganks. In the history of man, you will never die. Taliyah, as a jungler, needs to be paired with something like Pantheon, something like Renekton, something like Kiana. It needs to be paired with a physical damage mid laner. Otherwise, you can over-index on MR really easily in mid lane now. You could just buy Merc Treads and you can invest in 1 or 2 MR runes. And it's really simple. You'll never die to that combo. So then this is where the draft completely goes bonkers. So they've drafted Leona blind. And then they left Thresh open. At Thresh, I stand by it. I think it's good into Leona, but pre-6 or after level 6, Leona has options for counterplay because you could just Thresh. But so they left the Thresh open for Jhin, who is an experienced Thresh player. He's very good at the champion.
Very good, yeah.
So right then and there, you're kind of question mark pinging because you've given over Jarvan and Thresh, which is really, really easy to just sit bot lane with. And then you gave over Trollface's Shen. This kind of signed their death warrant because it meant that at no point could Kiwi DPS. And if Kiwi can't DPS, you will never kill Jarvan and you will never kill Shen. And Tron is not going to be able to kill anyone. Tron has been consistently bottom of the table in damage per game. His damage is abysmal. He does not know how to properly play team fights. And then they, for their superstar, quote unquote, because I don't think he's very good, top laner, bad boy B. Wade Bennett, they pick Soraka. So you picked Soraka into Shen. You're thinking to yourself, guys, we got Soraka. The game's over. We're fucking geniuses. We got Soraka 5th pick on red side. We're fucking geniuses.
Shing!
But you picked it into Shen. So you picked Soraka, okay, to have that global heal. It's really nice. It's kind of epic, actually. It means that every fight, no matter what, even if it's a 4v5, you're still in an advantage because you have a giant heal, right? What if I told you Shen does the same thing for one person? And what if I told you he doesn't care if Soraka gets a lane by himself. So he doesn't give a shit if his lane's in a bad spot before he ults. Because what the fuck is Soraka going to do on a fucking lonely tower? Nothing. She's going to throw bananas at it. They do 32 damage. This was the worst possible draft GoNext could have ever done. Because you by picking Talia Syndra, you're locked into going a physical damage top laner. And once they pick Shen, you can no longer go a physical damage top laner, which means you have triple AP top side. Shen just builds 2 MR items. He's unkillable. Kiwi dies 100% of the time to the Rumble and to the Jarvan, and it just doesn't matter from there. The game's unwinnable. Original tried everything in their power to give GoNext this match, but, but it was just unwinnable from draft. GoNext needs to seriously evaluate their draft priority because right now they're getting kind of exposed, and Tron RS is a serious flaw in the system. B-Way is not what he was. He's not getting Irelia anymore. He's not as good as he used to be. You can't just play Irelia and Fiora, honey. You have to play tanks too. Okay? This team is in serious trouble. I would say they're in bigger trouble if their division had a 4th team, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I don't see them getting 1st or 2nd. I really don't. I think Kiwi is exceptional, but Kiwi can only do so much when they're drafting shit like Aphelios, when Ezreal's open, and you know that they're going to go Rumble Jarvan. So that's the end of my rant there. Great job, guys. You really gave it your all in draft. Good. Keep it up. Proud of you. Great moves.
You know, the worst part overall, though, that I feel about GoNext is this weird sense of like they were building towards something. They've been a team for quite a while, and it just seems like the mountain crumbled right under their feet. Whether that's the foundation.
They have not grown as players.
No.
The only players who have grown are Bishan and Kiwi. Tron and B-Way have consistently gotten worse, and Seol's mechanics are nothing special. I don't care what he brings to your comms. If the guy's getting caught 5, 6, 7 times a game, it's kind of inexcusable. Carry on, Justin. I'm sorry. I'm really passionate about this because I love Kiwi.
It's okay, man. I didn't really have too much to say about GoNext. It just seems lost. That's all I can really say. You tried to build this massive mansion, it seems, from that you're building this GoNext gaming brand off of, and it seems like you built it on like 2 twigs or something. And it's crumbling under the pressure that you've set for themselves, for your teammates, for everything, and I don't really have sympathy because it seems like you guys brought it on upon yourselves.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's a sad fall from grace. It's kind of like meeting your hero as a child and finding out that they're addicted to heroin. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I would definitely, the fall from grace is definitely the best way to put it, I think, in 3 words, because
Yep.
yikes, man. I don't know. They didn't lose 3 games in last split at all. They only lost 2 of them, and they're
In a much more difficult division.
right. Yeah, it was way more difficult.
It was the same division, but add the best team in the tournament.
Yep. And like Tempest Rampage before they blew up too.
Yep.
And
even Sicko Saiyans wasn't that much of a pushover.
Sicko Saiyans was pretty good too. They did make playoffs after all. So yeah, they had way more competition. I honestly at this point don't remember the other 2 teams in that division, but
OTA Glacials.
no, yeah, I know. By the other 2, I mean excluding the 6 that are good.
They probably weren't worth remembering.
No, I don't remember who they were. But
I think this third game, this OTA Glacials game, isn't really worth looking at either because they didn't have a Tinyo.
True.
Yep, I would agree.
Tinyo had computer updates.
I agree. I'm still really high on OTA Glacials. I think they're quite good. I think they're debatably first. If at the very least they are second place in this division, I'll say.
I agree. I actually want to real quick just talk about the players in general though on this team because I think they actually have like similar to a quote unquote star-studded roster for this level of play. They have AXM, who's a great carry player. He's really evolved from the Camille Gangplank 2 trick that I knew him from a couple months ago.
Set was released.
True. And Mordekaiser got good.
Yeah, Mordekaiser. And he's playing Irelia in this game too and popping off until he doesn't, but
until he doesn't, indeed. And as we've seen like with Merc, they have Merc as well, to my knowledge.
Merc is really good.
Merc is really good. Atenyo is really good as well. They're all really solid players.
Those 3.
Those 3 I think are the most.
Those 3 are the ones that are debatably best in position in this division.
Walls
for sure.
Suck.
What?
He said Walls kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Walls is pretty bad.
Obviously this happened a long time ago before PRL started. But when I was looking for teams before I did end up on Akuma Sites, I actually did try out for OTA Glacials, and they were probably my second choice. Funny enough. So, I mean, obviously, if I considered them enough that I was going to consider joining them, that I thought they were good, and I still think they are good. So, I think
they're good too.
Yeah, I think reasonably they can also go pretty far in playoffs as well.
So this team actually has a similar situation where they don't have all 5 carry players, and Walls is not. Whether or not he wants to is another situation, but he's not a carry player. Klepto has never really been a carry player. He's usually a supportive player. That's what he was last split when he was on a team with Nutty. They would usually attempt to 2v8 their games, and it worked more often than it didn't, I would say. And yeah, I think that Klepto Bismol is right at home in a team like this, and it looks really, really solid. Not to mention that Zach is one of the best junglers in the entire game right now. He's getting better tomorrow. So that's a good look for Klepto, because that's one of the only champions he plays. But yeah, I really, really like the look of this team. I think that they are far and away better than what GoNext Gaming looks like right now. And I think that they would have been tied for first place with Original had Atenyo's PC not went boom. And yeah, I think that's really, really big for OTA. I think that they're one of the favorites to go very far in this tournament.
Yeah.
Walls also, please don't build the Andry second on Oriana into 1 tank. Just go Spellbinder, bro. It's a lot better.
He was thinking about it third item. If that counts.
Yeah, it's just not good at third item though.
Yeah. But yeah, so with Original and OTA Glacials both looking good. Before we get to Original, I wanna mention this. Does this division still look like the third best?
No.
No. Okay, so
well, that's a quick answer for me, and I'm only resting it on the fact that I think they're, as I mentioned at the very start today, it's a fucking garbage fight down there, and they have two good teams and two good teams in the other division, and the other six might as well just not exist.
Mm.
At first, we thought it was just Go Next and friends, and now it looks like OTA Glacials and Original and like their little cousin
Go
fucking
next.
Go Next,
Yeah, and then everyone
looking
else.
like, and then everyone else is kind of falling behind them.
Yeah.
I think that maybe the Bedids would look way better as long as Bedid didn't only come in at the later half of the season.
Yeah, if he was there before they went 3-5, then they might make playoffs. But
Exactly.
he was not.
I think that if he was there, not even just like even if he just missed 2 weeks, I think if he was just there for if he only missed 2 weeks, then I think Go Next would be out of contention with how bad they're looking.
See, I agree that OTA Glacials is the second best team in this division. However, they have a very bad matchup into Go Next in particular because they don't have a mid laner who's good enough to take advantage of Tron. And also Klepto is significantly worse than Bishan.
Yeah, but I think
I would
AXM
agree.
This matchup, funnily enough, you're about to mention, this matchup entirely depends on whether or not Axum plays well. Last time they played against each other, Axum built an Executioner's Calling at 26 minutes against Fiora and got run over.
Yeah.
Axum is a very proud player from what I know. I've played against him when he was on Astral. He was really good friends with the Essentia guys when I was on Essentia. We used to scrim them regularly. And his Jace is really good. Jace is kind of a dog shit champion right now. But he just kind of needs to play smarter, not better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If you play smarter, OTA is really hard to beat, even with the weakness in jungle and mid. And I don't think the weakness in jungle is that significant. I think the mid laner is exceptionally bad, though.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think the matchup against Original is also very interesting and perhaps even bad there because I think Kalandini is their best player by a lot.
Yeah, I would agree.
And,
I would agree as well.
And that's definitely a bad sign if you're OTA, because your mid is going to be down a lot. So you have to win in the other lanes, and it seems like that could be pretty difficult if Original's game plan of like getting the mid jungle super far ahead and going into the mid game team fights with things like the Misfortune, the Jarvan, and Phil mid lane. It can be the Rumble, it can be the Diana, it can be a number of things.
I think conversely though, when we're talking about this matchup between OTA and Original, that I think AXM will, maybe this is a bold claim, but I think AXM is way better than this, and I think
That's not a
Atenyo
bold
is.
Claim. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, bold claim in the sense of AXM will shit on Trollface, and I think Atenyo is way better than Fakey, and I think Merc and Jin can be about equal.
I disagree because I actually think Trollface is one of the best weak side top laners in the league, and I don't think that matchup matters at all when you play against Original. I think the matchup that matters is bot lane and jungle. If Klepto gets a good matchup, I don't think Original can win because while the mid jungle for Original is really strong, I think that all you have to do is break George Zilla jungle, and I don't think George Zilla jungle is particularly good. He seems to be an adept Jarvan player, but anyone with half a brain cell and two hands can be an adept Jarvan player.
I mean, you could do that with one hand.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just put your keys on your mouse.
I mean, I managed to play Jarvan, so anything's possible.
Okay, so
it's interesting because I think Axum has the chops to break Trollface.
I agree.
But like you're mentioning, I think Trollface. Let me think about it real quick. I think he is in contention for the best weak side top laner in the entire league. I would say Essentia does it really well, and I would say that
I think Essentia does it out of necessity, though.
Yeah, that's true.
I would agree. Yeah,
but I still think they do it really well, and I think that Shaden's really good at it too. But I think Trollface is very good at it. But I do think that Axum can exploit that. I think he has the capability of doing so. and I think Kalandini can really have his way with a lane like Walls. If he wants to stomp it, he can. If he wants to scale up on something like the Veigar that he's very proficient at, he can do that too. And yeah, I'm thinking that that's also a matchup that feels quite bad for OTA Glacials unless they just flat out bot diff, which they have been known to do, by the way.
I actually
Merc
think,
is
though,
very good at just flat out bot diffing you a lot.
I actually think though that there's an interesting realm of possibilities where they let Shen go through, and Mordekaiser still up for AXM. And if you don't know that matchup is brutal.
Very bad for Shen. Yeah.
And it's not even just like, oh man, Shen can like kind of sit on a tree. He loses a tower really early. Like even with Mord can 1v2 you at level 5 against Shen and a jungler. Even if it's like
he has two ways of stopping your ulti as well.
Yeah.
It's not like Soraka where you can wait for the silence to be down and then ult. You have to worry about the Mordekaiser Death Realm and the Death Grasp. So it's not even like just the 1v1, it's also that he can cancel your ulti and make it so you can't go anywhere. And if you do leave, it's not like Soraka where she's dealing 32 damage with her bananas. Mordekaiser actually does have very impactful auto attacks, especially if he does go something like the Nashor's Tooth.
Nashor's Tooth, yeah.
So, yeah, it's...
I think something, and I've been thinking about this for a while you guys have been talking. I think a way to beat Original, if you're OTA Glacials, bait them into the first pick set. Because Sam Axum is an exceptional Renekton. And Renekton takes a monster truck size shit all over that matchup.
True.
Yeah.
And if you can get Renekton Sejuani, and I don't think Sejuani is particularly good, but if you can get Renekton Sejuani, there is no weak side player that can survive that matchup.
True.
As set. So if you can bait them into the first pick set, I think it's actually really good because you can trade for a strong bot lane and then still take the Sejuani, and most teams won't ban the Renekton away from Axum because they're too focused on stuff like Jace, they're too focused on stuff like Kennen, they're too focused on stuff exactly like Camille. So yeah, that could be something worth looking at, I think, in my opinion.
And if they don't first pick the set, then congratulations, you get set.
Yeah, pretty much. And I don't think that that you can play weak side versus set. That champion is too strong. His passive is broken. He's very difficult to break in lane, and you kind of have to either dodge it by playing something like... Yeah, so you have to there's two ways to beat it, in my opinion. You either dodge the matchup by playing something like Soraka or like even like Rumble, where all you're doing is just sitting there and slowly whittling him down and then joining your team. Or you can play things like Renekton paired with Talia, Elise, Sejuani, and absolutely smash his head in. And once you get to that point, there's kind of no fighting back. So
yeah,
it's worth looking into, guys. That's a free little tip of information for you from your boy, Mr. Goose. I believe in Merc. He ended my old 80 carries career with one hook on Thresh. Shout out to SKZ Rizzo. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that team. Atinio, Merc, good.
Atinio, Merc, very
Wall's
good.
Bad.
Yeah, I agree.
I think you could actually reasonably... Here's, as people have talked about, though, where you see teams pick up players from, like, good players from bad teams that lost. Do you think there's a mid laner that could do really good on OTA of the teams that are basically out of the fight at this point?
Funnily enough, because he didn't work out on one of my teams, I think Akata would be an exceptional fit on OTA Glacials. I think the way that Akata sees the game is would match up a lot with the way that Atinio and Merc see the game. And I know Atinio and Merc personally, well, not personally, but I know them well enough to know that they're not aggressive personalities. And Akata thrives off of a situation where he can kind of be a bigger voice in the team. And I think that team would blend in really well with him. From players that I know, obviously you could just stick, it'd be like, well, put Bjergsen on Team Liquid. It's a good team now. But I think that team is stronger than the sum of its parts, and I think a player like Akata would fit in real well.
Yeah, maybe.
That'd be pretty cool. I like Akata.
Really cool.
I like Akata a lot.
Same.
Also think a jungler like Griffin from LC would do exceptionally well with Merc and Atinio.
Yeah. Sweet. All right. Any final thoughts here on the Sunday division? I have one actually. I'll lead this out. Famous, if you're listening,
Super Bowl.
if you didn't watch the Super Bowl and you were 6-4 instead of 4-6, you still would not make playoffs, and I want to make that very clear. You wouldn't make it. You guys suck. You guys have young mid. You have young mid, and you have Tanzo, who looks completely lost on that team. You have young mid and young mid alone, and that's not good enough to make playoffs. And I just want to make that very clear. It's not because of the Super Bowl. Joe Poppy. This is directed at directly Joe Poppy. I'm looking at the camera for this. Joe Poppy.
He lost to Consume Nut.
You suck. You lost to Consumed Nut. And you think you're going to make playoffs?
Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
You know what's funny, though?
You can call me a Democrat all you want, Joe Poppy. You suck at League of Legends.
You can build that wall, bro. I think Sunday Division has built a wall between you and playoffs. See you next season, pal.
You know what's I actually want to come into that point real quick. I actually think that, assuming you took the best of both worlds of Snowflakes and Prodigy, and they were also in Sunday Division, you might have had a chance.
Oh man, I've said this before.
You would work at the same record.
I've said this before, and I think it's the funniest thing. Famous Gaming in PRL, in the last 2 splits that I've seen, Famous Gaming is such a meme that they wish so bad that they could be SPK as an organization.
Shit. Is that what we're coming to?
See, I don't like blindly shitting on Famous anymore. I used to. It used to be really fun. But it's kind of like saying CLG is bad.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we get it. CLG sucks, right? We get it. CLG sucks. Shitting on SPK is fun because you had pundits, putting hymns in the top 3 of last season, which is a crime.
Those people are stupid.
By the way,
those people are
that is a literal crime.
Oh God, past Smax, what were you doing?
Yeah, I like in Sekiro, Mr. Joker Boy. That guy's cool. Everyone else, you guys do what you want. I love Young Mid.
He reminds me of Hubris with the Orin plays, and he's just like very passionate about. I love
Young Mid.
Yeah, Young Mid's really good.
Mr. Deathmark, go pop.
Young Mid on the Yasuo in the game that they played on stream, really good.
Young Mid
he actually looked so good on the Yasuo. It's a shame that he didn't have a single teammate that was willing to pick one displacement ability so that he could actually ultimate in a good amount of time. He didn't have to do everything by himself, and that's just what this team comes down to.
Well, see, when you have a player as powerful as Young Mid, you want to try and hold him back. You want to try and limit him, because if you don't, people will start to think that he might actually be the challenger player Young. So,
which in fact he is not.
You kind of want to hold him back. He's playing with one hand tied behind his back because his teammates refuse to help him, even though him and Tanzo are far and away the most competent and best players on these teams.
Yeah.
Shout outs to Tanzo. I like that guy.
Yeah. He looks so lost in this team. I feel so bad for Tanzo, man.
I just don't think you should ever live in a world where you're picking a player like Tanzo Orn.
Yeah. It's just
or Mordekaiser,
really sad.
Especially when you have a guy named just for him.
I think on red side, you should just be giving Tanzo whatever matchup he wants on red side because good player.
Can we just talk about just for him for a second?
I refuse.
All right, that's fine. Let's
He sucks the big PP.
he's like, ooh, Jarvan on the other team. Me pick Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai really good with this team composition. Let's
Sounds
go
like
in.
a certain jungler I know.
Wait, hold up. That me?
That's you.
Well, fellas, I'm going to let you guys field the questions tonight. I am going to just go and...
Oh no.
Oh, goodbye.
Wait, that ruined my overlay.
Oh no,
Oh no.
that son of a goose.
I'm gonna okay. Well,
We can pause.
no,
the
it's
recording
fine.
now.
It's fine. Well,
Okay.
people will. I'll just move right here. It's just me and Justin now. Although
Wow.
Ryan's face is still right there. So, there's that. But anyway, yeah. Thank you, Ryan, who's not here anymore, for being on the show.
I mean, we did talk for. I mean, to be fair, we did make the argument that it would be probably shorter to talk just about the teams rather than the matchups themselves.
And it was not.
And here we are, 2 hours later.
Okay.
Not even the questions. So.
Ryan did spend 15 minutes talking about Go Next.
To be fair, and we did spend like 20 minutes shitting on each SPK team. So
yeah, that was fun.
that was fun.
Yeah.
I still think the whole dream thing is that SPK just gets eliminated overall. So yeah.
I hope they do too. Not that I like have any animosity towards SBK, but it would be the icing on the cake, I think. But
yeah.
Anyway, let's move to the questions. So we've got a few here, and then I'm gonna throw one of mine in as well because I think it's interesting. But yeah, first off, we've got 2 questions that are very similar. We got Griffin asking who will make playoffs for every division, and then we've got Insecuro saying, as an extension on Griffin's question, out of all your predicted teams to make playoffs, which team looks like the favorite to win? So we essentially have our top 12, and then Insecuro is asking for our top 1.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I can go first if you want.
Well, I think we can take turns on each division, but I think for first off, I think for the Fire Division, we both agree that Wolfpack is out.
Yep.
Okay.
I actually think that it's possible that Akuma Sites do, but if they stick with X-Fluke and some carry, I don't see any possible way.
Yeah, not that Anarch is bad, not that Akata is bad, but those 2 players are just very, very good. There's a reason
not are they good themselves, but they're more than the sum of their parts. More than almost 2 times the sum of almost as much as 2 times. I'd say like if X-Fluke and Fen are 1-1, right? They're like 2.5 sometimes, up to 3.
Yeah. I agree. So yeah, those are our 3. Are we gonna order them?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's still just going to be in the regular order. I still think that there's an argument to be made for Ukuma Sites being second and LC being second, but I definitely think it's Aether because it's almost unshakable at this point. To Akuma and LC basically being tied at this point.
Yeah, I agree. It would surprise me if either of those 2 teams lost a different number of games.
Yep.
I think because Aether still has to play both of them.
Yep, they do.
And if Aether falls off, then they're going to lose to both of them. And if Aether stays the same, then they're going to beat both.
Yep.
So there you go. Yeah, I agree. For Friday, this is an interesting one. Not the top 2, obviously. We got Ascension and Soulbound. Those are my top 2. Are those your top 2?
Same.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's kind of you'd have to be nonsensical to think that either of those teams would drop out of the top 2.
Yeah. For number 3, my pick is actually Imperial Knights.
Funny enough, mine is too. I'm not joking. I think LC looks lost. I think.
No pun intended.
Yeah. They're collectively looking lost together. They are, and SBK.
Oh my God.
They're dirty Sejuani pickers. So.
SBK Omega Lol.
True. SBK can't W.
I've been saying it for months, guys. SBK Omega Lol. If you're a regular to this podcast, you already know. SBK Omega Lol. Even when they went 14-0 in their division last split, this is the SBK Embers, by the way. I know you weren't here for that, but an SBK team did go undefeated, and they were the only team to do so last split. and then they immediately got annihilated by Dawn Revenant.
Yeah.
So that
I
was
don't know if
pretty
it
awesome.
doesn't really relate to PRL, but same thing happened in UML for my team. So where we faced the 14-0 team and they got 2-0'd very quickly.
SBK Omega Law.
True.
So yeah, I think that there's still a real chance that SBK does make it into playoffs, but I don't think that if they do, that they're gonna win against a single team, and because of that, I hope they don't. So yeah, I hope Imperial Knights do get in because I really like Cruiser, and he's the best AD in this division. I think it's a conversation between him and Yellow, but I'm gonna go ahead and say that it's Cruiser. He's so good.
I think the bigger thing to talk about when you're talking about best player, but what they mean to their team, and I think that even though I think Yellow is a massive part of his team, I think Imperial Knights doesn't exist without Cruiser. Whereas you could reasonably say that Essential looked okay with Demon playing AD.
Yeah.
Even though I think he's horrible at AD.
He is significantly worse than Yellow, but they were still functional. Imperial Knights would not have the 3 wins that they do if Cruiser wasn't on the team. So yeah, cool. I didn't think we'd agree on that one, but that's cool.
I actually have been. We actually scrimmed them relatively recently, and I'm not going to divulge their picks or anything like that. But they did almost take a game off us. So,
nice.
But yeah,
awesome.
It's just, yeah.
You guys, well, you particularly know them from Sugar Free too.
Yep, exactly. Although they were 2 different teams back then, and they did smash them together.
Right. Yeah. But Cruiser was on it, and that's the important part.
Cruiser was on it. Yep.
Captor,
I mean, he was probably.
Captor was too. He was in the jungle for this team.
He was there. I don't think he's that good, but that's another story.
Yeah.
I think they had Barbacoa as their mid laner. I think that time.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
I don't really have much of an opinion of him.
Right. But anyway, let's move to the Saturday division. We got the Ashes. Kumakatana's number 1.
Yep. That's a no contest.
Yep. So for the number 2 and number 3, my picks are a little bit spicy here. What about you?
I think I've told you about the dankest timeline for this division before. So
I think it's upon us.
You think it's gonna be Akuma Katana's Jet Black and Ferocity?
I think that's gonna happen.
I agree. I want it to happen. I think we're there.
I think both Jet Black and Ferocity are bound to go 1 and 3, or excuse me, 3 and 1. And I think that the other 2 teams are going to go 1 and 3. Yeah. So SPK, to put this in perspective, SPK Embers, they play Jet Black, Team Fish Taco, Akuma Katanas, and X1 Brotherhood. I think that SPK is very likely to lose to Jet Black and Akuma Katanas, and I think that it's also very likely that they lose to X1, but less likely for that one. So if they could go 2 and 2, I think that would still eliminate them based on head to head. Or wait, no.
Yeah. They're currently 7 and 3 right now. So if they went 2-2, and
there would have to be tiebreakers at that point. Yeah. Which if there's a tiebreaker in this division, SBK is in it, they're gonna lose. I'll put that out there now.
I think it's actually disgusting when 2 SBK teams exist and Trundle is not like 100% pick fan against them.
Yeah.
Like you could blind pick Trundle and they would still pick Sejuani.
They probably would.
That's the problem.
For Ferocity, they have to play TFT, X1, Red Hair Pirates, and Jet Black. And I think Ferocity is very likely to beat all of them except for maybe Jet Black. I think that's going to be a banger of a game.
I think that's going to be the only game where it's like interesting at this.
That's going to be a banger for sure. But if Ferocity doesn't win all those other matches, I'm going to be pretty disappointed.
Yep.
And then for Jet Black, they have to play SBK, Akuma Katanas, EQ Lightning, and Ferocity. So they have a pretty stiff competition, I would say. They've got one of the toughest schedules.
I think as long as you have the intelligence of a 5th grader and can analyze the SPK drafts, you can beat them pretty easily.
If Jet Black beats SPK, I think that locks them right away.
Yeah.
Because they're definitely
then they'll have head-to-head for sure.
They're definitely going to be EQ Lightning. The other 2 matches are going to be tough.
Hair, right?
But
I mean, it's red hair.
They don't play red hair anymore. Oh, they have a really tough schedule.
You're afraid. It's Ferocity X1.
Yeah.
I think Cam said it pretty good on the last podcast. It's just take it one game at a time. Just play it each out. But don't forget that you're on a tightrope here at this.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my pick there. The dankest timeline I think is upon us. I think it's likely to happen.
I pray for the dankest timeline.
Yeah. The mediocre timeline would be Akuma Katana's Jet Black X1.
You cut out entirely right there, by the
I
way,
did?
for me.
Hello?
Yep. Yeah, you're fine. It just sometimes been cutting out a little bit.
The semi okay timeline would be Akuma Katana's Jet Black X1.
Yeah.
And
The worst timeline.
Any
SBK.
timeline with SBK in it would be
Is
bad.
the worst.
But the significantly worse one would be Akuma Katana's SBK X1 Brotherhood.
Yeah, I think that's the worst timeline. Yeah.
That would be the worst timeline for sure. Nothing against X1, but I don't want to see the Doritos in this chat anymore. And I think their draft is really not good, and I think their players are really not good. And
Yep.
I guess I do have a few things against X1 Brotherhood now, do I?
Huh? Yeah, I think that's. I just don't like the biggest problem with X1. I think they have fans somehow, but they don't have the star power that I am looking at when I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's the issue.
Yeah. All right. Well, then for Rebirth, there's no contest between which three are making it in, but we have to pick the order. My order is going to be Go Next third, which I think you probably are going to agree with.
I would agree with that, yeah.
And I'm going to put original and then OTA.
Oh, I actually agree with that too. I'm not joking. It's not like I'm just like have no thoughts on this. I vehemently argued for OTA. I think they're a great team.
Yeah.
I like them a lot. I only tried out for twice, I think, and I ended up not going with them, obviously. But I think they're great players, and I think, I definitely think that they have some of the best players, easily.
Yeah, I think original is really, really good, and like I mentioned before, I think the matchup favors original, but I think OTA Glacials are going to be more hungry after they had that unfortunate loss, and yeah, I definitely do think they have it in them. I think their team is really well constructed, the roster anyway, with the 4 players that they've got in walls, and yeah, I'm really high on this team. I think they're very, very good, and I still have them as the favorite if it does come, like, of these 3, I think OTA is the most likely to win the entire tournament.
Yeah, I would actually agree.
Even if they place second, I still think that. So,
I mean, of these teams, yes, I would agree.
Yeah,
because I think that obviously Go Next is at this point is not even in the contentions because of how they've been playing recently, but original seems. Even though we talked about Trollface having some of the best weak side top in the league, I think they're way more exploitable than they seem in this league, in this division. I mean,
yeah. All right.
I think the actual dankest timeline is if the Badids knock out Go Next.
That would be so nuts.
And you know what? If they do, they're gonna go all the way to finals. The Badids, I'll root for you, but I don't think it's gonna happen. But let's go Badids.
The Badids.
The Badids.
That'd be nuts.
That'd be actually the dankest timeline.
If
we get the dankest timeline in 2 Yep. Imagine how insane the post league drama and the post league talk would be if Go Next got knocked out by fucking Badid. I know, right?
That would not be pretty. You guys are not going to want to be there for that, unless you just want to watch and lurk. Then you're going to
watch the world burn.
That's
going to be the.
That's what their plan is. They're going to watch the Super Bowl and then they're going to watch the drama from home.
Oh man.
Famous snowflakes. You guys suck, except for Youngmin and Tanzo. But that's not good enough.
Yeah.
Man.
There was actually another. I mean, obviously we've been talking weirdly about timelines a lot, but there was actually a timeline where I was on an AFG team. So
I am thankful for you that didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean
they're notorious for losing.
I mean,
spectacularly losing.
I think that they actually have the same issue and the same extent as an org that SBK does. They are willing to take any and every player they get, and they just throw teams together, and they're not trying to make the best teams.
Yeah.
They're just trying to make a team.
I've been
you
saying
know?
this for a while, but SPK and Famous both need to have an A team.
Yes.
That would maybe look good. It'd be unlikely.
I don't know if it. I mean, to be fair though, like even if they had an A team SPK, we're talking about here, they'd
Honestly,
probably still pick Sejuani, and
yeah, I think the A team was supposed to be Embers, actually.
Yes, I think so as well.
And it didn't work. So,
I mean,
and now they're just burning down, which is rough. But anyway,
yeah.
We're digressing a little bit. Let's move on to the next question. We got from XFluke.
No, we still have to answer about the who do you think will win it all?
Who do we think is going to win it all? Akuma Katanas.
I think the finals, assuming the bracket pans out, and the way I would see it, right? I think my top 4 is like.
Oh, we can do that now. We can do that now.
Yeah, do you want to do top 4 and then move on to who we think are the finals, assuming like.
Let's do top 4. Okay, so top 4. You can go first because you started it.
Aether, Katanas, Essentia Storm, OTA Glacial.
Is that in order?
No, that's just top 4 right there.
Okay.
If I had to put it in order, it's probably OTA and Essentia at 3 and 4, and then with Essentia being 3rd. And I think that you could reasonably take Katanas. I put it like a 55 to 60% chance that Katanas would take it over Aether.
Okay.
What do you bet you?
My order from 1 to 4 is Akuma Katanas, OTA Glacials,
okay,
Aether Esports,
okay,
and then Original.
Really? You have Essentia somehow getting knocked off earlier than that?
I don't have them in the top 4.
Really? Wow. You're gonna have T-Type breathing down your throat in the next analyst test. You know that, right?
I know that. But my opinion has not changed of OTA or Aether or Akuma Katanas, and my opinion has vastly improved of Original. And it's to the point where I right now think that they would be favored against Essentia, and I think that they are more likely to get into top 4 than Essentia.
Yeah.
So then my finals prediction would be Akuma and an OTA. Okay.
I think though that
Akuma Katanas. Sorry, I have to specify.
Yeah,
Akuma Katanas, OTA Glacials.
I think when we see the bracket pan out, whatever that way it pans out as, that's when I'll. For that.
Playoff season is very fun.
I love playoffs. I love it. I adore it, especially when I think I have enough knowledge that I can actually dissect the game.
Yeah.
When it's happening, I'm just excited for, in general, how we're going to see the brackets play out. If the brackets play out horribly, you can see some very weird teams.
Like
and the
Dawn
real
Revenant.
dank is like Dawn Revenant. And the dankest timeline is that you end up seeing like Jet Black or something really outrageous.
So sick. That'd be super sick. I want to see a Jet Black semifinal. They wouldn't win.
What about Jet Black finals?
They wouldn't win that either.
Okay.
It would have to be pretty nuts for Jet Black to make it into the finals. But, stranger things have happened. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the next question?
SPK, both teams are positive, so that's pretty strange. The next question here is from AKMX Fluke. He asks, how do you think Dawn Revenant and Akuma Blades would be doing in PRL if they chose to stay another split? And this is an interesting one. I know you don't know too much about it, so I can just take this one. Akuma Blades would be more likely than any other team to be undefeated right now. And that is mostly because no other team is undefeated right now. But also, Akuma Blades are very, very good. There's a reason that when XFluke and some carry joined the sides, they instantly looked super, super solid, like right away. It's because that mid jungle is phenomenal. But not only that, Lunar and Brash hold it down in the bot lane very, very well. They can play weak side, they can play strong side. Anything you want of them, they will do. And Legoat James is also very good in the top lane too. They just super, super stacked. They have a lot of experience with each other as well. That team is phenomenal. As for Dawn Revenant, I think that they would make playoffs in any division except Thursday Division. And that is mostly because Thursday Division has the most teams that are like reasonably able to get into playoffs. I think Dawn Revenant would slot in at third in all of the other divisions. No, I'll take it back. For Saturday Division, they would get second. They would be the second place team in Saturday Division. But yeah, the other two they would get third, and then in Thursday, I think they would be better than Wolfpack, but I think they would be worse than the other three.
So. Yeah, I obviously don't know too much about them,
right?
So I can't really add my on that.
So yeah, to give you a little bit of rundown on them, they have an Ornn player in the top lane. When he's not on Ornn, he just plays other tanks. He's really good. His name is Hubris. The team is disbanded now, so this is just talking about what they were.
Dawn as an org is disbanded.
Yeah, exactly.
To be fair.
They had Arakara in the jungle, who was very good. He was probably the best jungler in like, well, I don't know if he's the best jungler in the whole league, but he was the best player on their team, and he was their jungler, which is usually a good thing to have. Their bot lane was subbed out a few times, but each bot laner looked pretty solid. And then their mid laner, I am blanking on who it was. But their top jungle was really good, and their bot lane was really good too. So, but yeah, oh, it's Lunar Lynx. That's who it is. He's a chameleon player. So he actually plays. He's his champion Ocean, and that worked out really well for them too.
The thing is, though, is I've actually played against that Dawn Revenant.
Oh, really?
In other league stuff. Yeah, I played against every one of the players.
Nice.
At some point, so Rocco is probably one of the better jungles I faced, and
yeah, he's quite good.
I think it was an S.
But anyway, so. we can move past that since you don't really have too much to talk about there. We've got a question from a Furious Doctor, aka AKM Doctor. Who are the 3 players to watch in each division in the final weeks before playoffs? And we did a little prep for this question, so you can start us off in the Thursday division here.
So I'm actually really torn on my third player, and I'll get to him in a second. But mine is Papi Chulo. I think that for the most part, it seems that there's obviously no flame to Caliburn, but I think in the most games where Aether gets to the late game where Caliburn really shows up, it's Papi Chulo getting on there, and sometimes it looks like he's dragging corpses behind him, like that are just they're not like trying to like pull him back down to like lose the game, but sometimes it looks like he's 1v4. And
he's like got him on his back.
Yeah.
Slung over his shoulder. It's not like super difficult. They're not super heavy, but it's still something. He's still carrying them.
Exactly. I think that's why my biggest issue with Aether is that I think that if they get abused in the top side, it could spell doom.
Yeah. My pick for Aether, because I have one for Aether, is actually Curry. Because I think in this division, the support pool is actually pretty good. You've got Doctor and Applause, who I think are both very, very strong supports, especially with how they interact in the early to mid game with their like top side as well. Because I think Ezreal and Indigo are usually pretty solid at like knowing when to back up if their support's roaming and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be on Curry to take advantage of that a little bit more, and really play with Magnum a lot in that stage of the game, because I think that's gonna be really, really big. And of course, obviously, like I mentioned before, I think Aether is a little bit lacking in proactivity, and I think they could improve that a little bit more if they had a little bit more confidence. Maybe confidence isn't the thing that they're lacking, but a little bit more trust in the early game for Magnum and Curry to pop off, and I think a lot of that does come from Curry, just based on the support pool that he's against.
Yeah. I think, funny enough, I actually don't have any support players on my top 3 list. I think that with how, I mean, obviously I was on Scythe, so
Yeah.
I would love to put Doctor there, but I think that, as you mentioned, the support pool, the bot lane pool in general, this pretty strong overall. That
Yep.
it's hard to pick one player that you're like, that's the guy. You know what I mean? But what I can say that about one player, Griffin from Lost Collect.
Yep.
And we talked about him for a while on earlier in the podcast, but that team lives and dies off him sometimes. And as I mentioned, I think top 1, if not if he said he was 3rd, there's only I would be disappointed because I think Doubtful and Griffin, who we'll be getting to later on in our top players for Doubtful, at least are our top 2 jungler tired league.
Yeah, I agree. They're also both very young people, which is really cool. Watch out for Doubtful and Griffin in LCS. They're actually like 13 and 14.
Yeah,
so
they're 13 and 14. So.
They're gaming. They're gaming for sure. Kind of crazy.
Yep.
I was gold when I was 14. So.
I wasn't even playing League when I was 14.
But anyway.
Big Boomer 22 now.
Yeah, I'm 21, so I'm just behind you there.
You're younger than me? Holy shit.
I am younger than you. But anyway, my pick is also Griffin for LC Gladiators. So yeah, much of the same reason. I think he's very, very good. We already talked about him a lot. He's also just the most entertaining person to watch on that team anyway, so you want to watch him anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then my last pick for this division is actually just Triple Lift.
Yeah.
Because actually, now that I think about it, it's not Triple Lift. It's actually Ryanek. Because Ryanek, oftentimes, without really meaning to do it, when he's not on Lux, will outshadow Triple Lift in the late game.
I agree.
I think that happens. That happens more often than not. And he's definitely one that you have to watch out for. You should ban his champions first of all if you're playing against him. Hope he gets Lux. Hope he picks Lux. And yeah, I think that he's more of a focal point than I have really given him credit for before, and he can carry just as hard, if not harder, than Triple Lift a lot of the time. A lot of that is because Triple Lift is playing Vayne, and Vayne is terrible, and then Ryanek comes in with Vladimir, an actually good champion, and he can do a lot more. But yeah, I think Ryanek's my actual pick. I was thinking about Triple Lift, but yeah, I'm going to go with Ryanek. The reason I'm not going with an Akuma player is because I don't know who's playing.
Yeah. As you mentioned, we don't really know who's playing just yet, because we don't know if Akata's stepping back in or not.
Right.
It seems like to what Goose was alluding to is that he's no longer on the team, because he recommended him for OTA. So that could be, honestly, like, part of me wants to be like Ryanek, because I've seen the high highs he can reach, but then I've also seen him play Lux. And then part of me is like, let's go Triple Lift.
That's why you gotta watch him, baby.
Exactly, right? But then you see Triple Lift, who's like, Vayne Kaisa 2-trick. Cool champs, dude. Hope they work out for you, man. And then you're like, and then part of me is like, well, I kind of can talk about another, the same one of the other two, Aether or LC, but I've already kind of talked about them. But I kind of don't have a third player. I'm gonna be honest. If anything, it'd be the Akuma mystery player for whatever mid jungle it is.
Yeah.
Either of those two.
All right. I like it. All right, let's move to Friday here. We have both already alluded to this. Cruiser is one of them for sure. He's very, very good at AD. He is carrying that team and it's really hard because it's definitely a lot harder for him to carry his team than Papi Chulo. Let's put it that way.
I would agree.
But he's damn if he isn't trying. Cruiser's really really good. So that's my pick from Imperial Knights, and
He's your number one.
he is my number one. Yeah, because I think that they if they do make the dream run and they make it into playoffs, it'll be him doing it. So he's my number one.
He's actually my number 3. Funny enough, my number 1 is actually Steel City Warrior, and I'm sure he's on your list too.
It was him and Core Havoc. Yeah, those are my other 2.
Really, you have 2 from the same team?
Oh, I think Essentia's just gonna win. I think they're gonna win
Yeah,
out.
I would put Core Havoc there.
Yeah. If they lose to Soulbound, then it's gonna be because of Steel City and Core Havoc.
Havoc, yeah, I would agree. Actually, I think
it's the big brain play.
Yeah, I think the only other player from those 2 teams that I actually want to talk about is probably Laxon. I think he's a really smart player. I've talked to him on the analyst desk a couple of times, and he seems very sure of himself and about what he's doing, and he even can take the joke sometimes about like what he's doing wrong. Karma with Morello when he has a 7-0 Varus.
Yep.
But I think that he is certainly something special on that team. But to be fair, I think that you could also talk about as the Italian, and I mean, some people might want to talk about Striker, right? But it's really, as they said on the analyst desk last week, it's really easy to look good on Karthus when they just 3-man invade you in the jungle and you get triple.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
that's true.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
And then I also have Cruiser. So.
Yeah. Cruiser's easy to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Core Havoc, Steel City are my other 2.
My other 2. Which order would you put them in?
Core Havoc 2, Steel City 3.
Wow, I would. Okay.
I'm biased. I'm a support player.
Okay, fine. Understandable.
That's my main reasoning. But also because he's got a sick bard. He's got a nice bard.
He's also got a really sick Blitzcrank.
He does.
With his Yomu.
He
does.
And
Reggie Glory. I have to say, I took it into solo queue. I lost that game. Just
Probably
kidding. I didn't play. But
yeah.
I mean, it's something. I definitely think that they're a team that will just out micro you, and if you get fallen into their trap of you trying to fight them, skirmishes and stuff, they will just run over you because they will get those advantages, and then yeah. But at the same time, I do think that their weakest point is like actual team macro team types.
Yep. Cool. Yeah. That rounds it up there. I'm really excited to see Soulbound Tsunami play some more. They're a very entertaining team. And
as much as
it's even better when they're winning too, because then they shit talk too, which is
fun to watch. But then randomly they just, I don't know.
They're something else.
Elvis, also known as Cocksucker, talks the most shit for being seemingly the worst player in that roster. So on the main roster at least,
like, you're gonna get a comment about that.
I'm sure I will. I'm sure I will. But Elvis knows that he's really known to not be taken seriously ever.
There you go. All right, for Saturday, actually this is going to tie in to our other question from June. He asks, is my boy AKM Coronavirus the best top laner in the league, and can he be considered a top 5 player overall? I am going to say yes.
I would say yes, but I think he's 5, maybe 6.
Okay.
Like if I were to look like a top 10 list, he'd be 5 or 6.
Okay.
And I think that's only because he's fighting against some players who like really make or break their teams. With Papi Chulo, with Griffin, to a certain extent, AXM, you could Jin or Merc or Steel City Warrior, Core Havoc, or there's a lot of players who have shown that they can be the stars of teams, and it's hard to rank them, especially since we don't see them ever interact ever. You know what I mean? In the sense of like
we will be doing that, by the way, for those of
We
you
will be
listening
doing
in, we will be making top 20 players list, and that's going
Which
to be
will be
really
fun.
fun. That's going to happen at the end of week 7. So tune in for it. It's going to be its own episode too, so you'll know which one it is. It'll say top 20 players list or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys are not going to want to miss that one. That's always a banger of an episode. But yeah, I am ready to say that Coronavirus is the best top laner in the league,
Really?
and I think he is one of my players to watch, in this division for sure, because he just slaughters people in the top lane. Like Ryan was saying, he is very willing to go in with the rest of his team, and it looks very good a lot of the time. He's on stuff like Kled, he's on stuff like Set, he's on a lot of these champions. I'm fairly certain he can play the Ornn too if he needs to, although I don't know why he would, because he can just kill the Ornn that he's against. And yeah, he is one of my players to watch. And then yeah, I'm ready to call him the best top player in the league for sure.
I think it's going to be a really fun time to watch him. I definitely think he's, if not number 1, he's probably top 3 for sure. Like, I think that's a no contest for sure for me.
Yeah.
Even though you're saying you're willing to call him top 1, I think that
Papichulo's really good.
I want to see him play against like AXM and Papichulo particularly.
Yeah.
But for my top,
maybe
for my
B
players
Way
to watch
Bennett if he was in form, but he's not. Anyway, sorry,
Yeah.
I cut you off.
It's fine. The other players I really want to watch, I put Coronavirus there for sure, but I think that because Coronavirus is easily, I think he's the most fun player to watch on that team.
I think
But
Doubtful is.
You think Doubtful is?
Doubtful is very fun to watch.
To be fair, I think so as well. Yeah.
I think Doubtful is the most fun jungler to watch in the whole league. Because he will just invade you at level 3 and he'll kill you, and then he'll kill the laners that are trying to protect you, and then when you spawn, he's still there and he'll kill you again.
I mean, to be fair though, like the team he did that against was kind of XD. That's all all I really want to say about that.
You know, you're right, but he still did it.
True.
He still did it. You can't take that away from him.
To be fair though, like he should be losing that level 1 early, and he just didn't. So
he didn't do it. He just went in and killed him.
But so I have both Coronavirus and Doubtful on my top players to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually want to relegate it to 4 players I want to watch, because even though I think Jet Black can live and die by Cam, I definitely think it's going to be a bit memey, but I think that Hiccup can also be a breakthrough point for that team.
I don't think that's a meme. I think Hiccup's really good.
I think Hiccup's good too, but I think the meme of just Jet Black in general, to be honest. So
yeah, that'll follow him forever.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest issue, which why I think it's a meme to put them any Jetpack player on there. I'm sure they'll have wonderful comments about that too.
Oh yeah, of course. I had a lot of wonderful comments putting them in top 8, but then they proceeded to go on a 5 win streak. So look who's talking now.
True. But then I also want to watch Jet Boomer. I think that Ferocity can make an identity around this guy, and if they do, it is going to be very fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm gonna cheat and put Orbit on mine because I want him to come back, and if he does, then I want to watch him come back and play, and I hope he does. But I don't know if he is, so that's kind of a bummer. But I hope that Orbit plays, because I think he's a really good support. And then my third is the bot laner for Jet Black, who I've already forgotten the name of because they change their bot laner all the time. If that guy comes back, nice. He looks pretty good.
Is it Miracle
Waffle
Whips?
Wheel.
Oh,
That's
Waffle
who
Wheel?
it is. It's Waffle Wheel.
Oh yeah, he played him twice. Played twice.
He played for the games last week. Before that, it was Austin.
Oh.
But yeah, I hope that they have one of those 2 players in, because they both looked really good. I don't know what happened to Austin, but you know, Waffle Wheel still looks good. And yeah, that's that pick actually is kind of a meme. The Jet Black bot laner, the mystery person. We don't know who it's going to be.
That's almost as memey as me saying Akuma mystery subs.
Yeah. But but even more so because Jet Black always has a mystery sub. But
True.
anyway, for the final division here, and this is gonna round out our show as well. Our players to watch in the Rebirth Division, in Sunday Division. This is this is gonna be a little bit of a cheat, and it's not the players that I am excited to watch, but it is the players that you have to watch if you are looking at this division and looking at how they're going to perform in playoffs. Because I am already certain that OTA and Original are going to make it into playoffs and do well in playoffs. The team that I'm not certain about is Go Next Gaming. And the players, all three of mine that I'm looking to watch are Bishan, Kiwi, and B-Way Bennett. Because those are the carries of this team. And if
You're
they
cheating.
are, I am cheating. If they are not performing, then this team is going to look terrible. We saw that last week. We saw that the week before too, which is, even more cheating because B-Way wasn't there for that week. But that has been a really bad look for them, and I'm gonna need those guys to step up and start playing, and I'm gonna be watching them like a hawk to make sure that they're trying their best. Because if they're not, I'm ready to write off Go Next Gaming.
So for mine, because I actually have 0 Go Next players in my players to watch.
That's
Funny
a different
enough.
approach. I think it's equally valid though.
I think
Is one of yours Bedied?
it actually is.
I thought so.
And the reason why is because the Bedieds, shockingly, will live and die off Bedied. And the dankest timeline is, in fact, where Go Next gets eliminated by Bedied himself, coming in at the last half of the season.
Oh, Bedied.
And I would love that dank timeline. As we talked about before with Jet Black and Ferocity making in for Saturday, obviously with Kubiks, I would love it if Bedied's made it into playoffs and Go Next burn down. But so
I think we have the same idea, but we're taking a different approach here.
Yeah. I think you're like, oh, let's see how they're doing. And I'm just like, I am already like hoping they're burning. Like we're seeing like some like smoke popping up out of like the windows.
You're throwing some wood into the fire.
Yeah, I'm kind of stoking it,
You can see the spark and you're like, yes.
Maybe I'm just taking safe picks, but as we talked about for these next 2 weeks that are pretty crucial, I really want to see AXM or Merc in particular just absolutely dominate, whether it's Original at some point. And I think it's going to be super interesting because specifically, although I think I'm going to watch AXM a bit more in the Original versus OTA game. I think it's going to be very interesting if you're going to be looking at the support matchup, because that's a matchup where I could go 50-50 and you could still be wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's a hard, like, the only way I'll be able to tell that is after I see the draft, because I'm personally of the opinion that it's like 60% of it. So, but yeah, so I have Jin, Bedied, and AXM or Merc for mine.
Awesome. All right. Well, that'll do it here for the questions. Do you have any final thoughts on this week, Justin?
Friday, Sunday, bad. Need to get better. I think obviously I'm saying that as a bit of a meme, but like I think a lot of people expected more of these divisions, and even though we still see some sparks of like, oh wow, like Sunday's picking up a bit, right? And then Friday's dropping a bit, or and vice versa, right? I expected Sunday to be a lot more competitive than they were, and
Yep.
I'm kind of disappointed with the division overall. I do think that the teams themselves could have been in other divisions and it could have worked, but I don't really put the divisions together, and I'm sure that it seemed perfectly fine on paper that because you could reasonably say like OTA, Go Next, Bedieds, and even did I miss original? I think I missed original.
Yeah, you did.
Would be like great top 4 contenders, but it really hasn't panned out that way.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
Friday in general,
divisions don't get put together based on balance. They get put together based on what days the teams
random
want
draw.
to play.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because like some teams
But
don't
yeah.
want to play on Sunday, so then they don't go on Sunday.
Okay. So, but then on top of that, right? Friday's also kind of memey as well.
Yeah, it was
And I
last
think-
split too. I think Friday's just a bad day.
Maybe. I think that I'm really hyped for Fridays. I mean, sorry, not Fridays, Thursdays and Saturdays to an extent. But even some of the teams on Saturday have been really almost disappointingly bad.
Yeah.
I'm mostly looking at SBK.
Yep.
Mostly.
X1 has
Obviously,
been looking really bad too.
yeah.
Pretty
I
disappointed
kind
in
of
them.
I've recognized some of these names, and I'm like, you guys could be good, but they're just not,
Yeah.
And it's really just sad.
There were two teams that I thought were overhyped coming into this week, and one of them was X1, and I was pleasantly surprised that I was right on that one. The other one was Original, and I was smacked in the face with reality on that one, that they are actually a good team. So I got 50-50 on that one. Not coincidentally, Saturday's predictions I got 100% right, and Sunday's predictions I got 100% wrong.
Really?
Yeah.
Actually, you wanna do a real quick thing, because I'm sure you already have Thursday's matches planned out. Do you wanna? I kind of wanna do a prediction a little bit, if you would like to. Like a real quick, like 2 seconds.
We do that on the liftoff.
Sure. But I'm not on liftoff, so
you
I
are
want.
not on the liftoff. So yeah, we can do that real quick. I don't know how to.
I know you'll give your thing. You could just tell me whatever they are.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you'll give your opinion on the liftoff, but I kind of
sure.
want to give my opinion on it.
So game 1 is going to be on the stream. I assume you're talking about.
Yeah,
it's going to be Shenzi's Frenzy's LC Gladiators. So
that's obvious. So
that's pretty obvious.
That's LCG.
Next game is Akuma Aether.
I think that's a real toss-up. I think if we see X-Fluke and some carry play, and part of me expects them to play because it's a defining match for the tone of the last week and a half. Yeah, and if they do win that game, I think Wolfpack's just done. They're dead in the water, So I'm gonna be contrarian here and say Akuma.
Okay. Cool. The next match is gonna be LC Gladiators FG Prodigy.
That's LC. They have an easy week this.
They do, yeah. And then we don't really have too many interesting matches. We have Cleveland State Wolfpack.
Cleveland State Wolfpack. That's. I mean, who is Aether playing Wolfpack again?
Aether is
next week, right?
Not playing Wolfpack again. They already did. They already beat them twice.
Oh, you're right. Because who other is Wolfpack playing this week? Shenzi's?
Wolfpack is playing FG Prodigy also.
Oh man, they got
beat
2
them last time.
Oh man, that's a real. I mean, that's kind of a meme.
It's the same time slot as Akuma Aether though, so I'm kind of sad about that because I was gonna stream that one, but
I think that would be the meme game to stream. But I definitely think that Akuma and Aether is gonna be the better game to watch.
Speaking of meme games to stream, who you got between EQ Lightning, Red Hair Pirates?
I know absolutely nothing about either team because I do not care about either team, but I like EQ Lightning's name way more than the Red Hair Pirates, which is just a blatant ripoff name. So they actually took their logo too. So it's like, screw them. Let's go EQ Lightning. Let's go.
EQ Lightning has a really cool logo.
I haven't even seen it. I just like the name.
It looks really nice. You'll see it on the stream on Saturday.
Oh, fun.
Because that game is getting streamed. You already know.
Yeah. You already know. That's a Battle of Titans.
Oh, yeah. That's
the Battle of Titans.
That's going to be a banger of a match, ladies and gentlemen. You are not going to want to miss that one.
It's not going to... The match of the week is definitely not going to be Aether Scythe. It's EQ Lightning.
Yep. EQ Lightning, Red Hair Pirates.
Red Hair Pirates.
Yeah. All right. But
Red
anyway...
Pirates hasn't won a game, have they, right?
Red Hair Pirates...
Win one?
Red Hair Pirates and EQ Lightning both have 1 win.
Nice.
Yep.
They're great teams.
And also 9 losses each. So.
Oh man.
But anyway, that's gonna do it here from us on the podcast. Significantly longer than the other episodes by about 45 minutes, but
It was fun. I
It was a good
time kind
time.
of just passed by.
Yeah. I have to feed my Theo though, my hedgehog Theo. So
Yeah.
gotta go do that. He is nocturnal, so he should be awake by now. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. If you're listening this far, really do appreciate it. Uh, if you're FG Joe Poppy, then no remorse. But for everyone else, I'm thankful for you guys listening in, and I'm really glad that you guys are all listening into my content and everything. The podcast has been very fun this season. I'm glad that I was able to take the reins, and I'm looking forward to giving you guys a lot of really cool content, especially come playoffs time. We're gonna get some super sweet stuff. I'm gonna have everyone who's been on the show return and make a top 20 players list, and we're all gonna come together and make a what's it called? A power
Aggregate
ranking
power rank.
of all
Ooh.
12 teams too, and
Can
we're
we
gonna
can we
we're
act?
gonna combine them too.
You know what'd be insane
Tell
is
me.
once the brackets get revealed, you have like kind of similar to how like a pick'ems type deal.
See, that won't work because it's dynamic seeding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunate.
But we will have predictions every week. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one. Thank you for coming on the show, by the way, Justin.
No problem.
I actually never introduced you as Justin, but
Yeah.
for those of you who are still listening, you already know. But Justin is
Yeah.
Malstixy. And yeah, thank you for coming on. I'm
You
really
also
glad
you also
I'm here.
introduced him as Goose, and then you called him Ryan several times.
I mean, yeah, but
People.
people know him as
Yeah,
Ryan.
true. Yeah.
I am
I'm
Sam
a new face.
also. Um,
Samuel.
Samuel. My mom calls me
Samantha.
Sammy. So does my wife sometimes. Um, but yeah, that's us for the podcast. You got any closing notes here?
Go EQ Lightning.
SBK bad.
SBK bad.
All right.
And
Well,
go fuck yourself, Elvis. That too.
there
That's
you
the
go.
third one.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on the show. I'm sure this will not be the last of you on the SmaxTalk podcast. But yeah, for those of you wondering what the rest of that content will be, we're gonna have a specific episode. So after week 7 specifically, we're gonna continue. We're gonna continue where there's gonna be a week 6 episode. There's gonna be a week 7 episode, and after week 7, there's going to be a power ranking episode, and there's going to be a Google Doc for that too. And there's going to be a top 20 players list episode too. Um, and like I mentioned, every person who has been on the show or will be on the show for those ones will be making a list. And if they don't, I'm gonna be upset with them. So if you're listening and you've been on the show before, you better make those with me, or else I don't know. I'm gonna do something. You're not gonna like it. It's a very empty threat. But anyway, yeah, thank you for listening. If you are still listening this far, been the longest episode, but a very fun one. I always enjoy talking to Ryan and Justin about League of Legends and things of that nature. But yeah, be sure to tune in for this week's games. They're gonna begin Thursday, 7 Eastern time. We got the Fire Division there, 6:30 Eastern time for the Liftoff show as well, and we already have a lineup for the rest of the podcast episodes, so I'm not going to ask if you would like to be on them, but yeah, be sure to watch out for future seasons as well, because I'm sure there will be podcast shows for that too. But anyway, yeah, be sure to tune in for the games. Tune into next episode as well. It's going to be on week 6, which is to come. And yeah, thanks again for listening in. This has been the SmaxTalk Podcast Winter Split, week 5. See you later.